Here's something they don't tell you about marrying a billionaire. The money doesn't protect you. Sometimes, it paints a target on your back. Isabella Chen learned this at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night when her neighbor knocked on her penthouse door, mascara running down her face, and whispered the words that would unravel everything. "Your husband is at my house. I caught him doing something. You need to see this." This is the story of a woman who traded a cramped Soho studio for a Central Park penthouse. Who went from curating art in small galleries to becoming Mrs. Damien Blackwell, wife of a tech billionaire worth $4.7 billion. Who thought she knew what love looked like until one midnight knock revealed a conspiracy that would either destroy her or set her free. Picture this. Isabella stands in her neighbor's apartment, staring at photographs of herself spread across a dining table like crime scene evidence. Her husband sits frozen, a gun pressed to his head. A stranger smiles at her and says, "Someone paid me to kill you. But tonight, I'm thinking, why not get paid twice?" 3 years earlier, Isabella was eating ramen for the fourth night in a row, wondering if she'd made a mistake choosing passion over profit. Her studio apartment in Soho was so small she could touch both walls while lying in bed. She had $17 in her checking account and a master's degree in art history that seemed increasingly worthless. Then Damien Blackwell walked into her gallery. So magnetic. The kind of man who makes the air shift when he enters a room. He bought a piece that night, a haunting abstract worth more than Isabella made in 6 months. But he didn't leave. He stayed. He asked her about the artist's technique, the emotional subtext, the way light played against shadow. He listened like her words were the most valuable thing in the room. 6 months later, they were married in a ceremony that trended worldwide. What you're about to witness is a 2-hour journey through wealth, deception, and a love that refused to die even when surrounded by lies. You'll discover that the biggest threat to Isabella wasn't poverty, it was trust. That her billionaire husband had been sneaking to the neighbor's apartment every night for 3 months. And that when she finally learned why, nothing about her gilded life would ever be the same. Because sometimes the person trying to save you and the person trying to destroy you look exactly alike. And when you're worth billions, everyone around you has a motive. Before we dive into this incredible journey, welcome to the channel. I need to be honest with you. This video took over 40 hours to research, 20 hours to write, and 15 hours to produce. Every twist, every emotional beat, every detail you're about to experience was carefully crafted to give you a story that feels cinematic, real, and absolutely gripping. If you appreciate that level of dedication, please hit the subscribe button right now. It truly means the world and helps me continue creating these in-depth stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. And here's something I want you to think about as we begin. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were hiding something massive? Not necessarily something bad, just something that changed everything you thought you knew? Drop your thoughts below, because Isabella's about to learn that secrets aren't always betrayals. Sometimes they're protection, and sometimes they're both. Now let's rewind. Back to where it all began. To the moment Isabella Chen stopped being invisible and became the most valuable and most vulnerable person in Damien Blackwell's world. Let's go back to the beginning. Before the penthouse. Before the billions. Before Isabella Chen's name became synonymous with New York high society. Back when she was just Bella, a girl from Queens who learned early that dreams don't pay rent. Isabella was born in a 2-bedroom apartment in Flushing, Queens, where the walls were so thin she could hear her neighbors arguing in 3 different languages. Her parents, Chinese immigrants who'd arrived with 2 suitcases and unshakable faith in the American dream, ran a small dry cleaning business on Roosevelt Avenue. Every morning at 5 a.m., her mother would leave for the shop. Every night at 11 p.m., her father would lock the door and come home smelling like chemicals and exhaustion. They made $47,000 a year. Combined. Isabella remembers eating dinner at 10 p.m. most nights because that's when her parents finally got home. She remembers her mother's hands, always red, always raw from the pressing machines. She remembers her father falling asleep at the kitchen table, still wearing his work apron, too tired to make it to bed. But here's what shaped Isabella. Her parents never complained. Not once. Instead, they pointed to the art books they couldn't afford but bought anyway. They took her to the Met every first Sunday when admission was free. They told her, education is the one thing no one can take from you. So Isabella studied. Not because she loved school. She was decent at it, nothing spectacular, but because she loved beauty. The way a painting could make you feel something you didn't have words for. The way sculpture could capture movement in stillness. The way art made poverty feel less suffocating, even if just for an afternoon. When Isabella was 16, something happened that would define everything that came after. Her father had a stroke. Right there in the shop, surrounded by other people's expensive clothes that he'd never be able to afford himself. The medical bills were catastrophic, $89,000 for a family that made less than $50,000 a year. They lost the dry cleaning business. Lost their savings. Nearly lost their apartment. Isabella watched her mother age 10 years in 6 months. She watched her father relearn how to speak, his pride crumbling with every slurred word. And she made herself a promise. She would never be that vulnerable again. Never be one emergency away from losing everything. Money wasn't evil. Poverty was. She graduated high school with a 3.7 GPA and a full scholarship to Hunter College. Not Harvard. Not Yale. Hunter, a CUNY school where tuition was manageable and dreams were practical. Her parents cried at graduation. Not because they were disappointed, but because she was going to college at all. Because she was going to escape the cycle that had trapped them. Isabella majored in art history. Her father didn't understand it. How do you make money looking at paintings? He asked, his speech still recovering, still imperfect. She didn't have an answer. She just knew that beauty was the only thing that had kept her sane through the worst years. And maybe, just maybe, she could build a life around it. College was 4 years of balancing 3 part-time jobs with a full course load. Isabella worked at a coffee shop near campus from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Attended classes until 4 p.m. Then worked evening shifts at an art supply store in Greenwich Village until closing. She slept 5 hours a night. Lived on dollar pizza and instant ramen. Wore the same 3 outfits on rotation because fashion was a luxury she couldn't afford. But she was happy. For the first time in her life, Isabella was surrounded by people who understood why a Rothko painting could make you cry. Who spent hours debating the intentionality of abstract expressionism. Who believed that art wasn't frivolous, it was essential. Her senior year, she got an internship at a small gallery in Soho. Unpaid, of course, because the art world runs on free labor and false promises. But it was her foot in the door. The gallery owner, Marcus Chin, no relation, though he found the coincidence amusing, took a liking to her. Not romantically, Marcus was 63 and happily married. But he saw something in Isabella that reminded him of himself 30 years earlier. Hungry. Determined. Willing to work twice as hard for half the recognition. You've got taste, he told her one afternoon while they were hanging a new exhibition. That's rare. Plenty of people can memorize art theory. Few people actually see. Isabella graduated with honors in 2019. Her parents attended the ceremony, her father walking with a cane now but beaming with pride. They took one photo, just one, because Isabella's phone camera was cracked, and her mother whispered, "We did it." Not you. Because in her mother's mind, this success belonged to all of them. After graduation, Marcus offered Isabella a job. Assistant curator at his gallery. Salary, $32,000 a year. In New York City, where a studio apartment in a decent neighborhood cost $2,000 a month minimum. Isabella took it anyway. Because it wasn't about the money, not yet. It was about building something. About proving that her degree wasn't worthless, that her dreams weren't naive. She found a studio in Alphabet City. 400 square feet. No elevator. Radiator that clanked like it was possessed. Shower that only produced scalding hot or ice cold water, no in-between. Rent, $1,650 a month. Do the math. After taxes, Isabella was taking home about $2,100 monthly. Rent ate 78% of that. The remaining $450 had to cover food, subway fare, phone bill, and the student loans she deferred but couldn't avoid forever. She stopped going out with friends. Stopped buying coffee. Started meal prepping rice and vegetables every Sunday because it was the only way to eat for under $5 a day. Some nights, lying in that tiny studio with sirens wailing outside and her upstairs neighbor's footsteps echoing through paper-thin walls, Isabella wondered if her father had been right. If art history was a beautiful, expensive mistake. But then she'd go to work. She'd curate an exhibition that made people stop and feel something. She'd discover a new artist whose work deserved to be seen. And she'd remember why she'd chosen this impossible path. Beauty matters. Art matters. Even when your bank account says otherwise. By age 25, Isabella had been working at Marcus's gallery for 3 years. She'd been promoted to junior curator with a modest raise, $38,000 now, which felt like winning the lottery even though it barely was. She'd built a small reputation in the New York art scene. Gallery owners knew her name. Artists sought her opinion. She'd curated 2 well-received exhibitions that got written up in Art Forum and the New York Times. But she was still broke. Still eating ramen 4 nights a week. Still wearing clothes from Beacon's Closet because retail was for people with savings accounts. Her parents were proud but worried. Her mother would call every Sunday and ask in Mandarin when Isabella was going to find a real job. Her father, more direct since the stroke had stripped away his filter, asked when she was going to get married and stop struggling alone. Isabella didn't have answers. Dating required time and money, 2 resources she didn't possess. The men she met in the art world were either broke artists or wealthy collectors, and she fit comfortably in neither category. She'd had one serious relationship in college that ended when her boyfriend graduated and moved to San Francisco for a tech job. He'd asked her to come with him. She'd said no. Art in New York felt essential. Art in Silicon Valley felt decorative. He'd called her stubborn. She'd called him practical. Neither was wrong. So Isabella built her life around work. Around beauty. Around the belief that eventually, dedication would pay off. She had $17 in her checking account the night she met Damien Blackwell. $17. Not $1,700. Not $17,000. 17. She remembers checking her banking app on the subway ride home from the gallery, seeing that number, and laughing. Not because it was funny, but because crying on the L train felt too vulnerable. That was October 2022. 29 years old. Living paycheck to paycheck. 1 missed rent payment from catastrophe. She had no idea her life was about to change so completely that she'd barely recognize herself. The gallery was hosting a charity auction. Art for Literacy, one of those events where wealthy people buy expensive paintings and feel philanthropic about it. Isabella wasn't supposed to be working that night. But Marcus's other curator had called in sick, and someone needed to be there to answer questions about the pieces. So Isabella showed up in the only cocktail dress she owned, a simple black sheath from H&M that she'd bought 3 years ago and worn to every formal event since. The auction drew the usual crowd. Hedge fund managers. Real estate developers. The kind of people who wore watches worth more than Isabella's yearly salary. She circulated through the gallery, answering questions, making small talk, feeling like an anthropologist studying a foreign culture. Then Damien walked in. Here's what Isabella noticed first. He was tall. 6'2", maybe 6'3". Dark hair, slightly too long, like he'd missed his last haircut by a month. Sharp jawline. Eyes so dark they looked black in the gallery lighting. But it wasn't his looks that stopped her. New York was full of attractive men. It was the way he moved through the space. Confident but not arrogant. Curious but not performative. He didn't look at the art the way most collectors did, as investments or status symbols. He looked at it like he was trying to understand something. He stopped in front of a piece Isabella had personally selected for the auction. An abstract by a relatively unknown artist named Sarah Kim. Layers of blue and gray, chaotic brushstrokes that somehow created perfect balance. It was priced at $18,000. Modest for the event, but significant for Sarah, who was still working a day job to pay rent. Isabella watched this man study the painting for 5 full minutes. No phone checking. No impatient shifting. Just focused attention. Finally, he turned to her. "Tell me about this piece." His voice was deeper than she expected. Controlled. The kind of voice that didn't need to be loud to command attention. Isabella launched into her curator speech. Artist background. Thematic elements. The words came automatically after 3 years of practice. But Damien stopped her. "No," he said, not unkindly. "I don't want the sales pitch. I want to know what you think about it." No one had ever asked her that at these events. Collectors wanted provenance and investment potential. Artists wanted validation. But no one cared what the curator actually felt. So Isabella told the truth. "It reminds me of drowning," she said. "But in a good way. Like that moment when you stop fighting the water and just sink. There's panic in those brushstrokes, but also is surrender. It's about letting go when holding on becomes impossible." Damien looked at her. Really looked, not through her or past her, but at her. Like she'd said something that mattered. "What's your name?" he asked. "Isabella Chen. I'm the junior curator here." Damien Blackwell. He extended his hand. She shook it. His grip was firm but not aggressive. His hands were calloused, unusual for a man in a $2,000 suit. "I'll take it," he said. "The painting?" "Yes. And I'd like to buy the artist's entire current collection if she has one. Can you connect me with her?" Isabella blinked. Sarah Kim's entire collection would be maybe 10 pieces. At least $150,000 total. "Yes. I can do that." Damien smiled. It transformed his entire face. "Good. And I'd like to take you to dinner." "To discuss the sale?" "No," he said simply. "Because I want to know what else reminds you of drowning." Isabella should have said no. She didn't date collectors. It was unprofessional, potentially messy, a line she'd never crossed. But there was something about the way Damien looked at her. Like she was the most interesting person in a room full of millionaires. Like her thoughts about a painting mattered more than its price tag. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Dinner." That was the beginning. The moment when Isabella Chen's carefully constructed life of beautiful poverty began its transformation into something she couldn't have imagined. Their first date was at a small Italian restaurant in the West Village. Not showy. Not expensive. Damien later admitted he'd Googled best romantic restaurants normal people afford because he didn't want to intimidate her. It worked. They talked for 4 hours. Isabella learned that Damien had built his fortune in cybersecurity, started a company called Sentinel Tech in his MIT dorm room and sold it 9 years later for $3.2 billion. That he'd grown up in Boston, middle class, the son of a teacher and an accountant. That he'd taught himself to code at 12 because he was bored and angry and needed an outlet. Angry at what? Isabella asked. Everything. Nothing. Being a teenager. He smiled. I was insufferable. Ask anyone who knew me at 14. But what struck Isabella most was how normal he seemed. He didn't name drop. Didn't flash wealth. Didn't perform success the way so many rich men did. He asked about her life. Really asked. Wanted to know about her parents' dry cleaning business, her crappy studio apartment, why she'd chosen art over something practical. Because practical felt like giving up, Isabella said. Like admitting that beauty doesn't matter. And I couldn't accept that. Damien studied her across the table. You're right. It does matter. Most people just forget. They started seeing each other regularly. Twice a week, then 3 times, then nearly every day. Damien adjusted his schedule around her limited free time. He'd meet her after work, often at 8 or 9 p.m. when the gallery finally closed. They'd walk through the city, talking about everything and nothing. He never tried to fix her financial struggles. Never offered money or suggested she quit her job. He seemed to understand that Isabella's independence wasn't something to be saved from, it was something to be respected. A month in, he took her to the Met. They spent 6 hours wandering through exhibits, and Damien listened while Isabella explained the history and technique behind piece after piece. He asked thoughtful questions. Remembered details from previous conversations. Made connections she hadn't considered. You studied art history? She asked. No. I'm just listening to you. It was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to her. 3 months into their relationship, Damien asked her to come to Boston for Thanksgiving. Meet his parents. His younger sister, Caroline. Isabella panicked. Meeting families felt serious. Permanent. She'd been careful not to let herself dream too big because disappointment hurt less when expectations were low. But she went. Damien's childhood home was a modest 3-bedroom colonial in a Boston suburb. His mother, Patricia, was a retired high school English teacher who hugged Isabella like she was already family. His father, Robert, taught economics at Northeastern and spent dinner asking Isabella thoughtful questions about the intersection of art and commerce. Caroline, a junior at Harvard studying computer science, immediately declared Isabella way too cool for my boring brother. They were warm, normal, the kind of family that played board games after dinner and argued good-naturedly about politics and didn't care that Damien was worth billions. You raised him well, Isabella told Patricia while they washed dishes together. He raised himself, honestly, Patricia said. We just tried not to screw him up too badly. She paused. He's different with you, you know. Lighter. Like he remembers he's allowed to be happy. On the drive back to New York, Damien held Isabella's hand across the console. My family loves you, he said. I love them too. I love you. The words hung in the car. Isabella's breath caught. You don't have to say it back, Damien continued. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just wanted you to know. But Isabella did say it back. Because it was true. Because somewhere between their first dinner and this moment, she'd fallen for this brilliant, gentle man who treated her like she was valuable exactly as she was. I love you too. 6 months after they met, Damien proposed. Not with a grand gesture or public spectacle. He proposed in Isabella's tiny studio apartment on a random Tuesday night in April. They'd ordered Thai food. Were eating straight from the containers because Isabella only owned 4 plates and they were all dirty. The radiator was clanking. A siren wailed outside. Damien set down his pad thai. Marry me. Isabella laughed. What? Marry me. I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never been more certain of anything. He pulled a ring box from his pocket. I had this made for you. The ring was stunning. A sapphire, deep blue, almost black, surrounded by small diamonds. Not ostentatious. Elegant. It reminded me of that painting, Damien said. The one by Sarah Kim. The one that looks like drowning in a good way. Isabella stared at the ring. At this man. At the impossible choice in front of her. Saying yes meant entering a world she didn't understand. Well, privilege. A life so different from everything she'd known that it felt like cosplay. But saying no meant walking away from the only person who'd ever made her feel like she didn't have to choose between love and independence. Like she could be artistic and practical, vulnerable and strong, herself but somehow better. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Damien kissed her. And in that moment, in that 400-square-foot studio with the broken radiator and dirty dishes, Isabella Chen felt like the richest person in the world. They got married 4 months later. August 2023. The wedding made international headlines. Tech billionaire marries unknown art curator. Damien Blackwell's surprise wedding to Queen's native. The $2 million wedding that shut down Central Park. The reality was more complicated. Damien wanted a small ceremony. 20 people, a simple exchange of vows, nothing performative. But when you're worth $4.7 billion, small isn't an option. Business associates expect invitations. Society circles demand inclusion. The press wants access. So the wedding became an event. 250 guests. The conservatory garden in Central Park, rented out entirely. Flowers flown in from Ecuador. A 7-course meal designed by a Michelin-starred chef. A performance by a Grammy-winning cellist. Isabella's parents were overwhelmed. Her mother kept whispering, "This is too much. Too much." But Isabella's father, still walking with his cane, still speaking carefully, said something that stuck with her, "You deserve beautiful things too." The ceremony itself was simple. Isabella wore an elegant Vera Wang gown, ivory silk, no excessive embellishment. Damien wore a classic tuxedo. They wrote their own vows. Isabella promised to always tell you the truth, even when it's hard. To love you loudly when you need reassurance and quietly when you need space. To build something with you that's ours, not his or mine, but ours. Damien promised to protect your independence as fiercely as I protect your heart. To never make you smaller to make myself feel bigger. To remember that you chose me when you didn't need me, and honor that choice every single day. There wasn't a dry eye in the conservatory. They honeymooned in Japan for 2 weeks. Kyoto, where they wandered through temples and gardens, and Isabella felt like she could finally breathe. No press. No expectations. Just them. When they returned to New York, Isabella moved into Damien's penthouse. 14,000 square feet overlooking Central Park. 6 bedrooms. 8 bathrooms. A kitchen bigger than her entire former apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city look like a toy model. It felt like living in a museum. Isabella kept working at the gallery. Damien never asked her to quit, and she never offered. Work was her identity. Her independence. The thing that proved she wasn't just Mrs. Blackwell. She was still Isabella Chen, curator, woman who'd built something from nothing. For the first year it worked. They were happy. Damien traveled for business but always came home. Isabella curated exhibitions and Damien attended every opening. They hosted dinners with his friends and her friends, blending their worlds imperfectly but genuinely. They talked about starting a family. Maybe in a year or 2. When things settled. But things never settled. Year 2 of marriage was different. Damien's company, Sentinel Tech, was acquired by a larger cybersecurity firm. Damien stayed on as Chief Innovation Officer, which meant more travel. Shanghai, London, Dubai, Singapore. He was gone 3 weeks out of every month. Isabella understood. Intellectually, she understood. This was his career. His passion. The thing he'd built before she existed in his life. But understanding didn't make the penthouse feel less empty. She'd come home from the gallery at 9 p.m. to 14,000 square feet of silence. She'd eat dinner alone at a table that could seat 12. She'd sleep in a king-sized bed that felt enormous when only she occupied it. They FaceTimed every night when Damien was traveling. But it wasn't the same. Video calls couldn't replace presence. Couldn't replace the warmth of him beside her. The safety of knowing someone was there. Isabella threw herself into work. Curated more exhibitions. Stayed at the gallery later. Filled the emptiness with productivity because productivity felt like progress. But she was lonely. Profoundly, achingly lonely in a way she'd never been when she was actually alone. Because being alone by choice is different from being alone by circumstance. The penthouse wasn't hers, it was theirs. But theirs felt hypothetical when she was the only one living in it. Her friends from before, the struggling artists, the fellow curators, started feeling distant. They'd invite her out, but Isabella would show up in clothes that cost more than their rent. She'd order expensive wine without checking the price because money wasn't real to her anymore. The gap between their lives had become too vast. She made new friends. Wives of Damien's colleagues. Women who lived in penthouses and summered in the Hamptons and understood what it meant to be married to someone who was never actually there. They weren't bad people. But they weren't her people. By year 3, the present, the now, Isabella had settled into a routine that looked perfect from the outside. Morning coffee on the terrace overlooking Central Park. Personal trainer 3 times a week. Gallery work from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Charity galas twice a month. Weekends at their Connecticut estate when Damien was in town, solitary Netflix binges when he wasn't. She had everything. Everything except the thing that mattered, her husband's presence. They weren't fighting. That was almost worse. Fighting would have meant caring enough to engage. Instead, they were cordial, polite, like roommates who happened to be married. "I miss you," Isabella told him on a FaceTime call 3 months before that midnight knock. "I miss you too," Damien said from a hotel room in Tokyo. "Just a few more months. This project will wrap up and then I'll take time off. I promise." He'd made that promise before. It never materialized. Isabella didn't push. Because pushing felt like nagging, and she'd rather be lonely than pathetic. Victoria Laurent moved into the penthouse 2 floors below 6 months ago. Isabella first met her in the elevator. Tall, elegant, French, with the kind of effortless beauty that made Isabella suddenly aware of every flaw. Victoria was a former model turned art consultant. Of course she was. "You're Isabella Blackwell," Victoria said, her accent thick. "I've heard so much about you. Your work at the gallery is extraordinary." They became friendly. Not friends exactly, but friendly. Victoria would occasionally knock on Isabella's door with a bottle of wine, suggesting they drink together when their husbands were traveling. Which was often. Victoria's husband, Marcel, was in finance. He traveled as much as Damien. So the two women formed an unspoken alliance, wives who'd been left behind. Isabella should have trusted her instincts. Because her instincts had been screaming since day one that something about Victoria felt calculated. The way she asked questions about Damien. The way she always looked immaculate, even at 11 p.m. The way she smiled, warm but not quite reaching her eyes. But Isabella was lonely. And Victoria was there. And sometimes, being lonely makes you ignore the warnings your gut is desperately trying to send. 3 months ago, Isabella started noticing small things. Damien would come home from business trips, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. He'd take phone calls in his office with the door closed. He'd check his phone constantly during dinner, distracted, somewhere else entirely. "Is everything okay?" Isabella asked one night. "Just work stress. Nothing to worry about." But she did worry. Because something had shifted. Damien was hiding something, and Isabella couldn't figure out what. She never suspected an affair. Not really. Damien wasn't the type. Or so she thought. Until 2 weeks ago, when she saw him in the building lobby at midnight, getting into the elevator with Victoria. Just the two of them. Victoria laughing at something Damien said. Damien smiling in a way Isabella hadn't seen in months. She didn't confront him. Didn't ask. Didn't demand explanations. She waited. And felt something inside her calcify into certainty. Her husband was cheating on her with the neighbor. The midnight knock was coming. Isabella just didn't know when. So here's where we are. Isabella Chen-Blackwell. 29 years old. Living in a 14,000 square foot penthouse. Married to a man worth $4.7 billion. Curating art at one of New York's most prestigious galleries. Wearing designer clothes and attending society galas and living the life she'd once only seen in magazines. And she's never felt more trapped. Because wealth doesn't protect you from loneliness. Success doesn't guarantee happiness. And sometimes, the person you love most in the world becomes a stranger you share a bed with. It's 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Isabella is sitting on her terrace, drinking wine, wondering how she got here. Wondering if this beautiful prison is all her life will ever be. Then someone knocks on the door. 3 sharp raps that will unravel everything. Isabella stands. Walks to the door. Opens it. Victoria Laurent stands there, mascara running down her face, trembling in a silk robe. "Isabella," she whispers. "Your husband? He's at my apartment. I don't know how to say this. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. If you were in Isabella's position, if you traded struggle for luxury, independence for partnership, and then found yourself alone in that luxury, would you have stayed? Would you have pushed harder for answers? Or would you have done exactly what she did? Waited, watched, and hoped the loneliness was temporary? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because what comes next will test Isabella in ways she never imagined possible. Some moments divide your life into before and after. This was Isabella's. Victoria stands in the doorway, trembling. Her silk robe is tied hastily, like she threw it on in panic. Mascara streaks down her face in dark rivers. Her hands shake. "Isabella," she says again. "Your husband is at my apartment. I caught him." Her voice breaks. "Please. You need to come with me." Isabella's heart stops. Then restarts, beating so hard she can feel it in her throat. This is it. The confirmation. The moment she's been dreading for weeks. Her billionaire husband, caught in the neighbor's apartment at midnight. The story writes itself. But something feels wrong. Victoria isn't triumphant. Isn't defensive. She's terrified. "Show me," Isabella says, her voice steadier than she feels. They walk down the hallway together. 2 floors down. Victoria's hands fumble with her keys. The door swings open. And nothing in Isabella's life will ever be the same. The apartment is chaos. Photographs cover every surface. The dining table. The kitchen counter. The floor. Hundreds of them. All of Isabella. Isabella walking into the gallery. Isabella having coffee at the corner cafe. Isabella on the terrace of her penthouse. Isabella in the Connecticut house. Isabella everywhere, captured through telephoto lenses, taken from distances that make her skin crawl. Someone has been watching her, documenting her, for months. And sitting at Victoria's dining table, surrounded by this evidence of surveillance, is Damien. His hands are zip-tied behind his back. His lip is bleeding. And behind him stands a man Isabella has never seen before, mid-40s, unremarkable face, expensive suit, holding a gun pressed against the base of Damien's skull. Mrs. Blackwell, the stranger says, smiling like they're at a cocktail party. I was hoping you'd join us. Your husband and I were just discussing the value of your life. Isabella can't breathe. Can't process. Her mind fractures into 1,000 questions. Who is this man? Why is Damien tied up? Why are there photographs of her everywhere? Bella, run, Damien says, his voice raw. Get out of here. Call security. The man presses the gun harder against Damien's head. I wouldn't. Security response time in this building is 3.5 minutes. I can fire this weapon in 0.6 seconds. Math is not in your favor. Victoria sobs behind Isabella. I'm sorry. He broke in. He made me text you. He said he'd kill me if I didn't. Quiet, the man says, not unkindly. Then to Isabella, my name is Marcus Webb. Your husband has been paying me quite handsomely for the past 3 months. $50,000 a week to document your movements, identify vulnerabilities in your security, and most importantly, figure out who wants you dead. The words don't make sense. Isabella's brain refuses to arrange them into coherent meaning. What? Someone hired an assassin to kill you, Marcus says as casually as if discussing the weather. A professional. Someone willing to pay $2 million to make Isabella Chen-Blackwell disappear. Your husband found out about the contract 4 months ago through his cybersecurity connections. Rather than tell you and risk whoever's behind this changing tactics, he hired me to investigate. Marcus gestures to the photographs with his free hand. I've been documenting your routines, looking for patterns, identifying when you're most vulnerable. Your husband has been meeting me here, in Ms. Lawrence's apartment, every few nights to review my findings. She's been kind enough to let us use her space. For a fee, of course. Victoria's face burns red. He paid me $50,000 a month. I needed the money. Marcel left me. I'm about to lose the apartment. I don't care about your financial problems, Isabella hears herself say. Her voice sounds distant, unfamiliar. She turns to Damien. Is this true? Damien's eyes meet hers. There's blood on his shirt. Fear in his face. And something else, guilt so profound it makes him look smaller. Yes, he whispers. Bella, I'm sorry. I should have told you. But I was trying to protect you. By having me stalked? By keeping you alive. Damien's composure cracks. Someone wants you dead, Isabella. Someone close to us. Someone who knows our security protocols, our schedules, our vulnerabilities. I couldn't tell you without tipping them off. I couldn't risk. So you lied to me for 3 months. Made me think you were having an affair. Made me think, Isabella's voice breaks. I thought you didn't love me anymore. The pain in Damien's face is visceral. God, Bella. I've never stopped loving you. Not for a second. Every decision I made was made without me, Isabella finishes. You decided I couldn't handle the truth. You decided to investigate behind my back. You decided my ignorance was safer than my agency. He decided correctly, Marcus interrupts. The person who hired the assassin is monitoring you closely. If you'd changed behavior, hired extra security, stopped going to work, shown any sign of awareness, they would have known. Bella, I would have changed tactics. Your husband's deception kept you predictable. Predictability kept you alive. Isabella stares at this stranger holding a gun to her husband's head, explaining why lying to her was justified. The logic is sound. She hates that it's sound. If you're working for my husband, Isabella says slowly, why are you holding him at gunpoint? Marcus's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Because 3 hours ago, the person who wants you dead increased the contract to $4 million. And I realized something. Why settle for $50,000 a week when I could collect $4 million in one night? Plus whatever your husband will pay to keep you alive. I'm thinking another $4 million seems fair. So you're switching sides, Damien says, his voice hard. You're going to kill her unless I pay you. Not quite. Marcus pulls out his phone with his free hand, keeping the gun steady. I'm going to auction you both. The person who hired me wants Isabella dead. They'll pay $4 million for confirmation. Your husband will presumably pay more to keep her alive. Highest bidder wins. Capitalism at its finest. The room tilts. Isabella grabs the back of Victoria's couch to steady herself. Someone wants her dead. Not Damien. Not a stranger. Someone close enough to know their security. Someone willing to pay millions for her murder. Her mind races through possibilities. Damien's business rivals? Someone from her past? Who hired you? Isabella demands. Tell me who wants me dead. That's the interesting part, Marcus says. I don't know. The contract was placed through intermediaries. Dark web. Cryptocurrency. Very professional. But here's what I do know, whoever they are, they're patient. The instructions were specific. Make it look like an accident. No timeline. Just wait for the perfect opportunity. How did you find out? Isabella asks Damien. One of my security analysts flagged unusual activity on the dark web, Damien says, his voice strained from the angle of the gun. Chatter about a high-value target in New York. Mid-20s. Married to significant wealth. It took 2 weeks to confirm they were talking about you. And you didn't think to tell me. I thought I could fix it before you ever had to know. Damien's voice cracks. I thought I could protect you from being scared. From looking over your shoulder every second. I thought. You thought wrong, Isabella says flatly. The betrayal sits heavy in her chest. Not infidelity, something deeper. Damien had treated her like a child. Like someone who needed protection rather than information. Like her fear was more dangerous than her ignorance. He'd made her a pawn in her own survival. Marcus checks his phone. Your husband's security team just received an alert that you're in this apartment, Mrs. Blackwell. They'll be here in 2 minutes. So here's how this works. I'm going to send a message to my client. Tell them you're alone, vulnerable, perfect opportunity. They'll respond with payment instructions. And then, he smiles. Then I'll see if your husband can outbid them in the next 90 seconds. You won't get away with this, Damien says. Probably not. But I'll be $4 to $8 million richer when they catch me. Worth the risk. Isabella's mind races. Security is coming. But 2 minutes might as well be 2 hours. Marcus can shoot them both and disappear through Victoria's balcony before anyone arrives. She needs to stall. Needs to think. Wait, Isabella says. If you kill me, you'll never know who wanted me dead. Doesn't that bother you? Professional curiosity? Marcus tilts his head. Mildly. What if we work together? Help you figure out who hired you. That's worth something, isn't it? Leverage? Insurance. Bella, don't negotiate with him, Damien says urgently. But Isabella ignores her husband. Because for 3 months, he's made decisions without her. Now she's making her own. Think about it, Isabella continues, her voice gaining strength. Whoever wants me dead has $4 million to spend. They're connected enough to find you. Professional enough to use the dark web. They know our security protocols. That's not random. That's insider knowledge. She takes a step closer. Marcus doesn't stop her. If you kill me tonight, you burn your relationship with them. One-time payment. But if you help us identify them, you've got leverage for life. Blackmail potential. Recurring revenue. That's much more valuable than a single payout. Marcus studies her. You're smarter than your husband gave you credit for. Most women are. A smile tugs at Marcus's mouth. I'm listening. Lower the gun. Let us go. Help us figure out who's behind this. When we identify them, you get double whatever they offered. 8 million. Plus immunity. Damien won't press charges for tonight. Clean slate. Better deal. Damien stares at her like she's grown a second head. Victoria has stopped crying, watching this negotiation with something like awe. Marcus considers. His gun doesn't waver. How do I know your husband will pay? That this isn't a stall tactic? Because I'm giving you my word, Isabella says. And unlike my husband, I don't lie to protect people. If I say 8 million, I mean 8 million. The dig lands. Damien flinches. 30 seconds pass. 40. Isabella can hear voices in the hallway, security approaching. Then Marcus lowers the gun. Deal, he says. But we're doing this my way. No police. No additional security. Just the three of us figuring this out. The moment I think you're playing me, Mrs. Blackwell, I go back to option 1. Understood? Understood. Marcus cuts Damien's zip ties with a pocket knife. Damien immediately moves to Isabella, pulling her close, checking her for injuries even though she wasn't the one held at gunpoint. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? I'm fine. Isabella steps back from his embrace. We'll talk later. The coldness in her voice makes Damien's face crumble. But there's no time. Security is pounding on the door. Marcus pockets his gun. Tell them everything's fine. Marital disagreement. Send them away. Victoria will confirm. Why should I help you? Victoria asks. Because I know about your offshore accounts in the Caymans. The money you've been hiding from Marcel in the divorce. One word to his lawyers and you lose everything. So you'll smile and tell security this was a misunderstanding. Victoria's face goes white. But she nods. The door opens. 3 security guards, hands on weapons. Mrs. Blackwell, we received an alert. False alarm, Isabella says, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. My husband and I were having an argument. It got heated. Ms. Lauron and her friend intervened. Everything's fine now. The head guard, James, Isabella's met him before, looks skeptical. His eyes sweep the apartment, noting the scattered photographs, Damien's split lip, Victoria's tears. Are you certain, ma'am? We can remove anyone you'd like. I'm certain. Thank you, James. We appreciate your quick response. James hesitates. Then nods. We'll be right upstairs if you need anything. The door closes. Silence descends. Isabella turns to face Damien and Marcus. 2 men who've been lying to her. One out of love, one out of greed. She trusts neither of them. But she needs both. Show me everything, Isabella says. Every photo. Every piece of evidence. Every suspect. If someone wants me dead, I'm going to figure out who and why. And I'm not going to hide while you two play detective. Damien starts to protest. It's not safe. Nothing about my life is safe. Someone wants me murdered. My husband has been lying to me for months. And I just negotiated with a man holding a gun to prevent my own assassination. I think I've earned the right to participate in my own survival. Marcus laughs, a genuine sound. I like her. Your husband's been treating this like a business problem, trying to manage and control. But you, he looks at Isabella with something like respect. You understand this is war. Who are the suspects? Isabella asks. Marcus spreads photographs across the table. Different images now. Not surveillance of Isabella, but dossiers. People from their lives. Based on the contract specifications and insider knowledge required, we narrowed it down to 12 possibilities. People with motive, means, and access. Isabella's stomach drops as she looks at the faces. Because she knows all of them. Marcus points to the first photo. Suspect 1. Caroline Blackwell. Your husband's sister. Her mind runs through the suspect list on an endless loop. Caroline. Could she really? That sweet girl who'd hugged Isabella at Thanksgiving? Damien's parents. Who'd welcomed her so warmly. Who'd seemed genuinely happy about their son's marriage. Her own parents. The thought makes her physically ill. But she can't dismiss it. Marcus is right. $4 million could give her father his life back. Could erase the financial devastation of his stroke. How far would love go to protect itself? At 7 a.m., Isabella gets up. Showers. Dresses in black slacks and a silk blouse. Armor disguised as business casual. Damien is in the kitchen when she emerges. He looks worse than she feels. Dark circles under his eyes. Unshaven. Still wearing yesterday's bloody shirt. I made coffee, he says quietly. Isabella pours herself a cup. They stand on opposite sides of the kitchen island. 14,000 square feet, and somehow there's not enough space between them. I'm sorry, Damien says. For lying. For making decisions without you. For treating you like you were too fragile to handle the truth. I know. I don't know if I can forgive myself. Isabella looks at her husband. This brilliant, flawed man who'd loved her badly but loved her nonetheless. I don't know if I can forgive you either, she says honestly. But we don't have time for that conversation right now. First, we stay alive. Then we figure out if we have a marriage worth saving. Damien nods. His jaw tightens. When this is over, if you want to leave, I won't fight you. I'll give you whatever you want. The penthouse. The houses. Half my assets. Whatever you need to feel safe. I don't want your money, Damien. I never did. Then what do you want? Isabella considers. I want to trust my husband. I want a partnership, not a dictatorship. I want to be seen as capable, not protected like I'm made of glass. She pauses. And right now, I want to find out who wants me dead and make sure they regret it. A ghost of a smile crosses Damien's face. You're terrifying when you're angry. But maybe I should have been terrifying more often. That night, Isabella attends a gallery opening. A new exhibition, contemporary photography exploring themes of isolation and urban loneliness. Fitting. She wears a red dress. Statement jewelry. The armor of wealth and confidence. She circulates through the crowd, champagne in hand, smile fixed in place. And she plants the seeds. I'm swamped with inventory Wednesday night, she tells Marcus Chen casually. Have to stay late. No one else knows our cataloging system well enough. Working alone? Marcus asks. Isabella, that's not safe. What if? I'll be fine. The building has security. And I need to get it done before the audit next week. She sees Marcus's expression shift. Calculating. Concerned. Is it genuine worry, or is he measuring opportunity? Isabella repeats the information to Sarah Kim. To Daniel Price, who's at the opening with his new girlfriend. To Elena Rodriguez, who texted asking if they could meet up. Each time, she watches for reactions. Micro-expressions. The slight widening of eyes or tightening of jaw that might indicate foreknowledge. Guilt. Intent. She sees nothing definitive. But she feels something. A prickling awareness that someone in this room wants her dead. Is planning her death. Waiting for Wednesday night. The thought should terrify her. Instead, it focuses her. Sharpens her. Isabella Chen-Blackwell has spent 3 years being a decorative wife. Playing the part of the billionaire spouse. Shrinking herself to fit into a world that wasn't built for her. Wednesday night, she stops shrinking. It's Tuesday night. 24 hours before the trap springs. Isabella stands on her penthouse terrace, looking out at Central Park. The city glitters below her, millions of lives, millions of stories, millions of people fighting their own battles. Somewhere out there, someone is preparing to kill her. Maybe it's someone she loves. Maybe it's someone she trusts. Maybe it's someone she's never suspected. But whoever they are, they've made a fatal miscalculation. They thought Isabella was weak. Passive. A woman who'd married for money and could be eliminated like a problem on a spreadsheet. They were wrong. Isabella's phone buzzes. A text from Marcus Webb. Everything's set. Security cameras hacked. Weapons secured. I'll be in position by 8 p.m. Wednesday. Don't be late. Another text from Damien. I love you. Please be careful. If anything happens to you, I won't survive it. Isabella doesn't respond to either message. She has nothing left to say. Tomorrow night, she'll walk into a gallery alone, knowing someone is coming for her, knowing that every decision she's made in the past 72 hours has led to this moment. She should be terrified. Instead, she feels something she hasn't felt in 3 years, powerful. Because wealth didn't make her strong. Survival did. And Isabella Chen has been surviving her entire life. Before we continue to the confrontation, I need to ask you something. If you were Isabella, would you go through with this plan? Would you walk into a trap, trusting a man who held a gun to your husband's head just days ago? Would you risk everything to unmask someone who wants you dead? Or would you run? Disappear? Take Damien's billions and start over somewhere the past can't reach you? Because here's the thing. Isabella has a choice. She could walk away. Hire professional security. Let the police handle it. Save herself. But she's not going to do that. And maybe that's what separates survivors from victims. Survivors don't run. They fight. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you fight, or would you flee? Because what happens next will test every assumption you have about wealth, loyalty, and how far someone will go to protect the life they've built. Wednesday arrives like a death sentence with a countdown timer. Isabella wakes at 6 a.m., even though she never slept. Her body vibrating with adrenaline and terror and something that might be excitement. Today, someone will try to kill her. She's certain of it. The question is, who? She goes through her morning routine like it's any other day. Shower. Cover. The illusion of normalcy when nothing is normal anymore. Damien is already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop open. He hasn't slept either. The exhaustion in his face has carved new lines around his eyes. I can still call this off, he says without preamble. We can hire professional security. Go to the police. There are other ways. We've been over this. Bella, please. Let me protect you. Isabella sets down her coffee cup with careful precision. You can't protect me from someone who's already inside our circle. The only way out is through. She walks to him, cups his face in her hands, studies the man she married, brilliant, flawed, desperate. I need you to trust me the way I needed you to trust me 3 months ago. Can you do that? Damien closes his eyes. When he opens them, they're wet. I don't know if I can watch you walk into danger. Then don't watch. But don't stop me either. She kisses his forehead. A benediction or a goodbye. She's not sure which. Isabella goes to the gallery at her usual time. 10 a.m. Marcus Chen, the gallery owner, greets her at the door. Big night tonight, he says casually. Inventory. Someone has to do it. I could stay. Help you. 2 people would finish faster. Isabella studies his face. Looking for calculation. Guilt. Anticipation. She sees only mild concern. That's kind of you, Marcus. But I have a system. Extra hands would just slow me down. He nods. Well, be careful. The neighborhood gets sketchy after dark. Is that a warning? Or a threat? The day passes in slow motion. Isabella curates. Answers emails. Makes small talk with visitors. All while her mind counts down the hours. 7 hours until the trap springs. 6. Her phone buzzes constantly. Damien checking in. Marcus Webb confirming logistics. Victoria asking if she's okay. Isabella ignores most of them. She needs to stay focused. Present. If she lets herself think too hard about what's coming, she'll lose her nerve. At 4 p.m., Sarah Kim stops by the gallery. The artist whose work Damien bought on their first date. She's successful now, exhibitions in major galleries, pieces selling for 6 figures. Isabella, I heard you're working late tonight. Just inventory. Why? Sarah hesitates. Be careful, okay? I don't know why, but I've had this weird feeling lately. Like something's wrong. Call it artist intuition. Isabella's pulse quickens. What kind of wrong? I can't explain it. Just, Sarah shakes her head. Never mind. I'm probably being paranoid. I'll let you get back to work. She leaves. And Isabella wonders, was that genuine concern? Or was Sarah testing her, seeing if Isabella suspected anything? At 5 p.m., Daniel Price calls. Damien's former business partner. Isabella, is Damien there? He's at the office. Why? I've been trying to reach him all day. It's important. About the Sentinel Tech acquisition terms. There's money he's owed that he hasn't collected. Nearly 40 million. But there's a deadline. If he doesn't claim it by Friday, it reverts to the buyer. Isabella's mind races. $40 million. If she dies tonight, does that money go to Damien's estate? Does Daniel have a stake in her death? I'll tell him to call you, Isabella says carefully. Thanks. And hey, I heard you're working late tonight. Want me to send my security guy to check on you? Building security isn't always reliable. Every hair on Isabella's body stands up. That's okay. I'll be fine. She hangs up. Texts Marcus Webb. Daniel Price just offered to send someone to check on me tonight. Is that suspicious or am I paranoid? Marcus responds immediately, both. Add him to the high probability list. At 6 p.m., Elena Rodriguez, Isabella's college roommate, shows up at the gallery in person. I was in the neighborhood, Elena says, though the gallery is in Soho and Elena lives in Brooklyn. Thought I'd say hi. They haven't seen each other in person for 8 months. Not since Isabella sent that $50,000. Elena. This is a surprise. I know you're busy. I won't keep you. Elena looks around the gallery, her expression hard to read. This place is beautiful. You've done so well for yourself. There's something in her tone. Not quite bitterness, but close. You could have this too, Isabella says quietly. You were more talented than I was. If you'd finished your degree. But I didn't. Because my parents couldn't afford it and I had too much pride to ask for help. Elena's smile doesn't reach her eyes. You were smarter. You married help. The words sting. Isabella wants to defend herself, wants to explain that she married Damien for love, not money. But is that even true? Would she have fallen for him if he'd been broke? She doesn't know anymore. I heard you're working late tonight, Elena continues. Alone. That's not safe, Isabella. New York is dangerous for women. I'll be fine. Will you? Elena holds her gaze. Because sometimes I think you forget how vulnerable you really are. All that money, all that security, it creates the illusion of safety. But illusions shatter. Isabella's blood runs cold. What are you saying? Nothing. Just, be careful tonight. Okay. Elena leaves. And Isabella adds another name to her mental list of suspects. At 6:30 p.m., Isabella's mother calls. I had a bad dream about you last night. You were in danger. Isabella's chest tightens. I'm fine, Mom. Just a dream. Are you sure? You sound strange. I'm just tired. Busy day. Your father wants to talk to you. There's shuffling. Then her father's voice, still slightly slurred from the stroke but getting stronger every month. Bella, your mother is worried. She says you're working too late. Alone. That's not safe. How does he know she's working late? Isabella never told her parents. Dad, how did you? We talked to Damien yesterday. He mentioned it. Sounded worried too. Damien told her parents. Why would he do that unless he's trying to rule them out as suspects? Give them alibis. Confirm they're not involved. Or is this a setup? Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. If you needed money for your medical care, a lot of money, how far would you go to get it? Silence on the line. Long enough that Isabella thinks the call dropped. Then, what kind of question is that? Just hypothetical. No parent should ever have to choose between their life and their child's safety, her father says slowly. But if I did have to choose, I would choose you. Every time. Money isn't worth your life, Bella. Nothing is. Isabella's eyes burn. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Be careful tonight. The line goes dead. And Isabella doesn't know if that conversation cleared her father as a suspect or confirmed him. At 7 p.m., Patricia Blackwell, Damien's mother, texts. Caroline mentioned you're working late tonight. Do you want me to drive down and keep you company? I could bring dinner. Isabella stares at the message. Patricia has never driven to the city just to bring her dinner. They're warm with each other, but not spontaneous 4-hour drive close. She texts back, that's so sweet, but I'll be fine. Just boring inventory work. Patricia responds, if you're sure. But honey, please be careful. I worry about you working alone in that neighborhood. City crime isn't what it used to be. Everyone keeps warning her to be careful. Everyone knows she's vulnerable tonight. Is one of them the killer? Or are they all just genuinely concerned? Isabella's phone rings. Caroline, Damien's sister. Hey Isabella. I know you're busy, but I wanted to check in. About what? About my idiot brother. He called me yesterday. Wouldn't say why, but he sounded stressed. Is everything okay with you too? Isabella considers lying. But she's tired of lies. We're having some problems. Nothing we can't work through. Good. Because if he's being stupid, I'll fly down there and kick his ass myself. You're the best thing that ever happened to him. The affection in Caroline's voice sounds genuine. But sociopaths are good at sounding genuine. Caroline, can I ask you something personal? Shoot. Marcus Chen, gallery owner, mentor, would-be murderer, dies on his gallery floor surrounded by the art he loved more than human life. If Damien and I split up, if I died, you'd inherit part of his estate, right? Silence. Then, where is this coming from? Just answer the question. Yes. 30% if you die while you're still married. But Isabella, why are you asking me this? Are you okay? Has someone threatened you? Isabella's voice cracks. I don't know who to trust anymore. Trust me. Trust that I would never hurt you. Trust that if someone is threatening you, I will help you destroy them. Caroline sounds fierce. Protective. But Isabella has learned that everyone sounds real until they're not. I have to go, Isabella says. Inventory calls. Be safe tonight. Please. Isabella hangs up. Looks at her suspect list. 12 names. 12 people who could want her dead. And in 2 hours, one of them will make their move. At 7:45 p.m., Marcus web texts. In position. Back office. Cameras operational. I can see the entire gallery floor. You're clear to enter. Isabella takes a breath. This is it. She leaves the penthouse at 8 p.m. Damien watches her go, his face a mask of controlled terror. If anything happens, he starts. Nothing will happen. Marcus is there. Your security team is staged nearby. We planned for every contingency. Plans don't stop bullets. Isabella kisses him. A real kiss, desperate and fierce. I'll see you in a few hours. And then we're going to have a very long conversation about trust and partnership and what marriage actually means. She doesn't wait for his response. Just walks out the door. The gallery is in Soho. 20-minute drive. Isabella takes an Uber, her driver making small talk about the weather while she contemplates her mortality. They pull up outside the gallery at 8:24 p.m. The street is busy with Wednesday night foot traffic. Restaurants full. Bars crowded. Normal people having normal nights. Isabella is about to walk into a trap. She pays the driver. Steps out onto the sidewalk. The gallery windows are dark. She unlocks the front door with her key. Silence engulfs her. The gallery feels different at night. The art on the walls takes on sinister shadows. Every creak of the old building sounds like footsteps. Isabella walks to the back room where inventory is kept. Turns on the lights. Pulls out her laptop and begins the performance of actually doing work. Her phone is in her pocket, on silent. Connected to Marcus via earpiece. He can hear everything. She can't hear him, that would be too obvious. But if she says the code word, assistance, his security team will be here in 90 seconds. Marcus's voice crackles through the earpiece. I've got visual on you. You're doing great. Stay calm. Nothing's happening yet. Isabella works. Actually works. Because sitting idle would be suspicious. She counts pieces. Updates the catalog. Makes notes for next week's exhibition. At 9 p.m., her phone buzzes. Damien, still okay? She texts back, fine. Boring. Inventory is worse than death. The irony isn't lost on her. 9:15 p.m. Nothing. 9:30 p.m. Still nothing. Isabella's nerves fray. Maybe they got it wrong. Maybe the killer isn't taking the bait. Maybe. The lights go out. Every single light in the gallery. Emergency exit signs. Street light bleeding through windows. Everything. Pure, absolute darkness. Isabella's heart stops. Then hammers so hard she can feel it in her throat. Marcus's voice in her ear. Power cut. Not accidental. Someone's here. Stay exactly where you are. I'm moving to your position. But Isabella can hear footsteps. Not Marcus's. Someone else. Coming from the front of the gallery. Slow. Methodical. Confident. Isabella's hand goes to her phone. Ready to say the code word. Ready to call for help. But she waits. Because she needs to know who it is. Needs to see their face. The footsteps get closer. Isabella's eyes adjust slightly to the darkness. She can make out shapes. Shadows. A figure enters the back room. Backlit by the faint glow of the street outside. Hello, Isabella, a familiar voice says. And Isabella's world collapses. It's Marcus Chen, the gallery owner. The man who gave her a job. Who mentored her. Who'd been like a father figure when her own father was recovering from his stroke. He's holding a gun. Marcus. Isabella's voice cracks. What are you? I'm sorry, my dear. I truly am. But this is business. Nothing personal. Nothing personal. He's about to kill her, and it's nothing personal. You hired the assassin, Isabella whispers. I hired several, actually. The first two were incompetent. But this one, he gestures to himself with the gun. This one I'm handling personally. Can't trust anyone to do quality work anymore. Isabella's mind races. Marcus Webb is supposed to be protecting her. Where is he? Why isn't he intervening? Why? She manages to ask. I trusted you. I worked for you. What did I do? Marcus's laugh is hollow. What did you do? You existed. You married a billionaire while I watched my gallery, my life's work, circle the drain. Do you know how much money I've lost in the past 5 years? 2 million. And then you show up, marry money, and refuse to help when I ask. You asked for an investment. I said no because I wanted to keep work separate from Damien's money. You said no because you didn't care. Marcus cuts her off. You have everything. I have nothing. And your death will bring me $4 million. Enough to save the gallery. Enough to rebuild what I've lost. So yes, Isabella. You have to die. And I'm genuinely sorry about it. He raises the gun. Isabella's hand fumbles for her phone. Code word. She needs to say the code word. But Marcus is faster. He fires. The shot is deafening in the enclosed space. Isabella feels impact. Fire. Pain exploding in her shoulder. She stumbles backward. Falls. Her phone skitters across the floor. Marcus moves closer. I really am sorry. But business is business. He aims for her head. Then the world explodes. Marcus Webb crashes into Marcus Chen from the side. The two men go down hard. The gun fires again, wild, hitting nothing but ceiling. They fight. Brutal, ugly, desperate. Chen is older but fighting for his life. Webb is trained but caught off guard by how fiercely Chen resists. Isabella drags herself backward. Her shoulder screams. Warm blood soaks through her blouse. She can't think about that. Can't process the pain. She needs to help. Chen breaks free. Scrambles for the gun. Finds it. Aims at Webb. No! Isabella screams. Chen turns. Divided attention. Fatal mistake. Webb lunges. Gets his hand on the gun. They grapple. Another shot fires. This one hits Chen in the chest. He drops. Just like a puppet with cut strings. Webb stands over him, breathing hard. Isabella, are you hit? Shoulder. I'm okay. Is he dead? Or will be in about 30 seconds. Chen is making wet, gasping sounds. Blood spreads across his shirt. His eyes find Isabella. I'm sorry, he rasps. Gallery was my life. My legacy. Couldn't let it die. So you tried to kill me instead? Isabella's voice shakes with rage and pain and something close to grief. Seemed like a fair trade. Chen coughs. Blood on his lips. Guess I was wrong. His eyes go vacant. The gasping stops. Webb is calling emergency services. Officer involved shooting. 1 dead. 1 wounded. Send ambulances and police to... Isabella can't hear the rest. The adrenaline is crashing. Her shoulder throbs. The room spins. She hears sirens. Close. Getting closer. The gallery door crashes open. Damien bursts through, followed by security team. He's supposed to be 3 blocks away. He's supposed to be waiting for the all-clear. But he's here. Bella. He drops beside her. God, Bella, you're bleeding. Shoulder. I'm okay. You're not okay. You've been shot. His hands are shaking as he applies pressure to her wound. Ambulance is coming. You're going to be fine. You have to be fine. Isabella looks up at her husband. This man who'd lied to protect her. Who'd hired a mercenary to save her. Who'd broken protocol and rushed to her side the moment shots were fired. It was Marcus, she says. Marcus Chen. The gallery owner. He needed money to save his gallery. $4 million for my life. Damien's face contorts. I'm going to... He's already dead. The words hang there. Marcus Chen is dead. The threat is over. Isabella is alive. But she doesn't feel victorious. She feels broken. Paramedics arrive. They load Isabella onto a stretcher. Damien climbs into the ambulance with her, holding her hand like it's the only thing tethering him to sanity. You were right, he says as they speed toward the hospital. I should have trusted you. Should have treated you like a partner instead of something fragile. I'm sorry. I know. Isabella's eyes are heavy. The pain medication the paramedics gave her is kicking in. We'll figure it out. After I'm not bleeding. After you're not bleeding, he agrees. Isabella wakes up in a private hospital room. White walls. Beeping monitors. Her shoulder is bandaged, arm in a sling. Damien is asleep in the chair beside her bed. He looks terrible. 3 days of no sleep and accumulated terror etched into his face. She reaches out with her good hand. Touches his cheek. He wakes instantly. Bella. You're awake. How do you feel? Like I've been shot. The bullet went through. Clean wound. No major damage. Doctor says full recovery in 6 to 8 weeks. Isabella processes this. Shot. Could have died. Didn't. Marcus Webb, she asks. Gave his statement to the police. Self-defense. He won't be charged. And Damien hesitates. I paid him. $8 million, like you promised. He earned it. Isabella nods. The police want to talk to you when you're feeling better. They have Marcus Chen's body. His phone. Found text messages to other potential assassins. Evidence that he'd been planning this for months. It's open and shut. The gallery? Will probably close. Chen was the owner. With him dead and his finances in ruins, there's no one to run it. Isabella's chest tightens. The gallery. Her work. The place where she'd built her identity beyond being Mrs. Blackwell. Gone. I'm sorry, Damien says softly. I know how much that place meant to you. It doesn't matter. I'm alive. That's what matters. But it does matter. Of course it matters. Over the next 3 days, people come to visit. Damien's parents drive down from Boston. Patricia cries when she sees Isabella. Thank God you're okay. When Damien called, we thought. Robert hugs her carefully, mindful of her shoulder. You're tougher than you look. Caroline flies in from Harvard. She's fierce and protective, grilling doctors about Isabella's care. Is this the best hospital? Do we need to move her? Get specialists. She's fine, Caroline, Damien says. Let her rest. But Caroline pulls a chair beside Isabella's bed. So you almost got murdered. That's metal. Isabella laughs. It hurts. Not the adjective I'd use. No, seriously. You used yourself as bait. That's badass. Caroline's expression softens. I'm glad you're okay. If something had happened to you, it would have destroyed my brother. And I kind of like you, so I'd have been upset too. Isabella's parents visit on day 2. Her mother cries. Her father, steady despite his cane, just holds her good hand. We taught you to be strong, he says. Maybe too strong. You could have died. But I didn't. Because you're lucky. Not because you're invincible. Remember that. Sarah Kim comes. Brings flowers and guilt. I should have known something was wrong with Marcus. The way he talked about money lately, the desperation. I'm sorry I didn't see it. None of us saw it, Isabella says. He was good at hiding. Elena Rodriguez visits on day 3. She looks uncomfortable, out of place in the luxury hospital. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. She hesitates. For being bitter. For making you feel bad about your success. You almost died, and my last real conversation with you was resentful. That's not okay. Isabella studies her former roommate. You didn't have anything to do with this, did you? Gano. I'm angry, but I'm not murderous. Elena sits. Though I should probably work through my issues in therapy instead of passive-aggressively guilt-tripping my rich friend. I'm sorry I couldn't help more. The $50,000 was incredibly generous. And I squandered it on stupid things instead of building something real. That's on me. Elena manages a smile. We're both kind of a mess, huh? Yeah. But at least I'm in a live mess. On day 4, Marcus Webb shows up. Isabella doesn't know how she feels about him. He saved her life. But he'd also been willing to auction her death. Ethics are murky when survival is on the line. I came to say goodbye, Marcus says. And to check that you're recovering. I'm fine. Where are you going? Somewhere without extradition treaties. Your husband paid me $8 million, but I still broke about 40 laws. Better to disappear while I can. Isabella nods. Thank you. For saving me. Thank you for negotiating instead of panicking. Most people can't think clearly with a gun pointed at them. Most people didn't grow up poor. Marcus smiles. True. Poverty teaches resilience. He turns to leave, then pauses. For what it's worth, you would have made a terrible victim. Too smart. Too stubborn. Chin chose wrong. He chose murder. That's always wrong. Fair point. Marcus Webb leaves. Isabella will never see him again. Let's pause here for a moment. Isabella survived the assassination attempt. Marcus Chin is dead. The threat is eliminated. But here's the question I want you to consider. Should Isabella have taken this risk? Should she have walked into that gallery knowing someone wanted her dead? Or should she have done what Damien wanted? Let professionals handle it, hired private security, played it safe? Because there's an argument that her choice was reckless. That she almost died for the satisfaction of unmasking her would-be killer. That staying alive should have mattered more than staying in control. But there's also an argument that Isabella did exactly what she needed to do. That taking control of her own survival, after months of being lied to and treated like a child, was the only way to reclaim her power. What do you think? Was she brave or foolish? Drop your perspective below. Because the answer to that question defines how you see Isabella, and how you see the choices we make when everything is at stake. Now, let's talk about what happens after survival. Isabella is discharged on day 5. Her shoulder still hurts, but she can move. Function. Survive. Damien takes her home to the penthouse. The place feels different now. Not quite as much like a prison, but not quite like home either. They need to talk. Really talk. About the lies. The trust that was broken. Whether their marriage can survive what happened. But first, Isabella has something to do. She calls a meeting. The conference room in Damien's office building. Everyone who was on the suspect list. Everyone who was questioned, investigated, turned into a potential murderer in her mind. Damien's parents. Caroline. Her own parents. Sarah Kim. Elena Rodriguez. Daniel Price. Victoria Loron. 11 people who didn't try to kill her. They gather, confused and wary. Isabella stands at the head of the table, her arm in a sling. I owe you all an apology, she begins. For the past week, you've been under investigation. Suspected of trying to have me killed. My husband hired a mercenary to document your lives, look for evidence, treat you like criminals. Shocked silence. It was Marcus Chen, Isabella continues. The gallery owner. He needed money to save his gallery. He hired an assassin. He died during the attempt. Patricia Blackwell's hand flies to her mouth. Caroline's face goes pale. Isabella's mother starts crying. "I'm sorry," Isabella says. "I'm sorry we suspected you. I'm sorry we invaded your privacy. I'm sorry for every moment you were treated like a threat instead of family and friends." "But you survived," Robert says quietly. "That's what matters." "Is it?" Isabella asks. "Because I'm standing here, alive, looking at people I love and realizing I was willing to believe any of you could be a murderer. What does that say about me? About us?" No one has an answer. "I want to make this right," Isabella continues. "I don't know how, but I want to try. Because you didn't deserve to be suspected. And I didn't deserve to die. And somehow we all have to figure out how to move forward from this." Daniel Price stands. "Isabella, you don't owe us anything. You were protecting yourself. Anyone would have done the same." "Would they?" She looks around the room. "Would you have investigated your family? Your friends? Would you have been willing to believe the worst about people you love? If it meant staying alive?" Daniel says. "Yes. Absolutely." Others nod. Murmur agreement. But Isabella sees the hurt in their eyes. The betrayal. The knowledge that they were suspects. That their love wasn't enough to exempt them from suspicion. Trust, once broken, doesn't heal cleanly. 2 weeks later, Isabella makes a choice. She's going to buy the gallery. Marcus Chen's estate is bankrupt. The gallery is being auctioned to pay his debts. Isabella could walk away, find a new job, build a new identity. But the gallery is where she became herself. Where she learned that beauty matters. Where she fell in love with Damien over a painting about drowning. She's not ready to let it go. "Are you sure?" Damien asks when she tells him. "After everything that happened there. Especially after everything that happened there. Chen tried to destroy me in that space. I'm not giving him that power. How much do you need?" "I don't want your money, Damien." "It's not my money. It's our money. We're married." "Are we?" Isabella asks quietly. "Really? Or are we two people living in the same penthouse, trying to figure out if trust can be rebuilt?" Damien flinches. "That's fair. I'll use my own savings. The money I earned before we married. The inheritance from my grandmother. I can cover the purchase. But after that," she hesitates. "After that, I need to build this myself. Prove I can succeed without your billions behind me. You've already proven that." "Not to myself." Isabella buys the gallery for $1.2 million. Everything she has saved. Every cent from her grandmother's modest inheritance. Every dollar she earned in those struggling years. It's terrifying. Liberating. Hers. She renames it. The Chen Gallery becomes Resilience. A statement. A promise. A middle finger to the man who tried to kill her. She hires new staff. Curates new exhibitions. Focuses on artists who've survived something, poverty, illness, trauma, loss. Art that speaks to resilience. To survival. The gallery reopens 3 months after the shooting. The opening night is packed. For collectors. People curious about the space where a murder attempt happened. Isabella stands in the center of her gallery, shoulders still occasionally aching, and feels something she hasn't felt in 3 years, pride. Not in what she married. In what she built. Damien attends. Stands in the back. Doesn't try to take credit or insert himself. Just watches his wife reclaim her power. After the crowd thins, he approaches her. "You did it," he says simply. "We're not done talking about us," Isabella says. "About the lies. About whether we can fix this." "I know. But for tonight," she takes his hand with her good one. "For tonight, thank you for being here." "Always," Damien says. "Even when you don't need me. Especially then." That night, after the opening, Isabella and Damien finally have the conversation they've been avoiding. They sit on the penthouse terrace. The city glitters below them. The same view they've shared for 3 years. "I don't know if I can trust you again," Isabella says without preamble. "You lied to me for months. Made me think you were having an affair. Treated me like I couldn't handle the truth." "I know." "That's not enough, Damien." "I know" doesn't fix broken trust. Damien is quiet for a long moment. You're right. It doesn't. And I don't have a defense that makes what I did okay. I was scared. I thought control would keep you safe. But control isn't love, and safety isn't partnership. Isabella looks at her husband. This brilliant, flawed man who'd loved her badly but loved her nonetheless. I need to know that if something like this happens again, God forbid, you'll tell me. Immediately. Even if the truth is terrifying. Especially then. I will. I swear it. I need to know that you see me as an equal. Not someone to be managed or protected, but someone to stand beside. You're the strongest person I know, Damien says. Stronger than me. I forget that sometimes because I'm so terrified of losing you. But I see you, Bella. I see what you've survived. What you've built. And I'm in awe of you. Isabella's eyes sting. That's a start. What else do you need? Time. Therapy. Couples counseling. Proof that you mean what you're saying. And, she takes a breath. I need you to understand that I might decide this marriage isn't salvageable. That the damage is too deep. And if I make that choice, I need you to respect it. Damien's face crumbles. But he nods. If you decide to leave, I won't fight you. I'll give you everything. The penthouse. Half my assets. Whatever you need to feel secure. I don't want your money. I know. But you'll take it anyway. Because you've earned it. And because I need to know you're taken care of, even if you're no longer mine. Isabella reaches for his hand. I'm not saying I'm leaving. I'm saying I don't know yet. It's okay. They sit in silence. Not quite together, not quite apart. Two people trying to rebuild something that was broken by love, fear, and the terrible choices we make when we're desperate. We're at the midpoint of this story. Isabella has survived. The gallery is hers. The threat is eliminated. But survival isn't the same as healing. And safety isn't the same as happiness. Isabella Chen-Blackwell has spent her whole life fighting for things. Fighting for education. For opportunity. For art. For love. For survival. Now she's fighting for something harder. The ability to trust again. To be vulnerable without being weak. To love without losing herself. If you're still here, I genuinely appreciate you. We're halfway through this journey, and I know it's not a simple story. There's no clear villain anymore. No easy answers. Just complicated people trying to navigate impossible situations. What's kept you engaged so far? Is it Isabella's resilience? The complexity of her relationship with Damien? The question of whether trust can be rebuilt after betrayal? Let me know in the comments. Because the second half of this story is going to test every assumption you have about love, wealth, and what we owe each other when everything is on the line. Isabella survived the assassination attempt. Now she has to survive the aftermath. And that might be the harder fight. 6 months after the shooting, Isabella Chen-Blackwell is a different person. Not better or worse. Just different. Resilience Gallery becomes the talk of New York's art scene within 3 months. Not because of the sensational backstory, though that helps. But because Isabella curates with a ferocity she never had before. She seeks out artists who've survived something. Who've clawed their way back from rock bottom. Who understand that beauty isn't about perfection, it's about endurance. The first major exhibition features 12 artists. All of them formerly incarcerated. Their work explores themes of confinement, freedom, redemption, and the impossibility of erasing your past. The art world clutches its pearls. Too political, some critics say. Too raw. But the exhibition sells out. Every single piece. Collectors pay 6 figures for work by people society had written off. Isabella stands in the empty gallery the night after closing, looking at the bare walls where transformative art had hung, and feels something close to purpose. The second exhibition is even bolder. Survivors features exclusively female artists who've escaped domestic violence. Their work is visceral, painful, beautiful in ways that make viewers uncomfortable. One piece is a dress made entirely of restraining orders. Another is a photograph series documenting the healing of bruises over 6 weeks. A third is a sculpture constructed from broken dishes, the kind thrown during fights. The New York Times runs a front-page feature. Isabella Chen-Blackwell, the curator who refuses to look away. The article talks about her near-death experience, about Marcus Chen's betrayal, about how survival changed her perspective on what art should do. Beauty isn't about making people comfortable, Isabella tells the reporter. It's about making them feel. And sometimes feeling means confronting ugly truths. The exhibition breaks attendance records. Lines around the block. Press coverage from international outlets. Museums calling to discuss acquisitions. Isabella has become more than a curator. She's become a force. By month 4, Resilience Gallery is profitable. Not just breaking even, actually profitable. Isabella pays herself a salary of $95,000. Not billionaire money, but enough to live on. Enough to prove she doesn't need Damien's wealth. She hires 3 staff members. Pays them well. Offers health insurance and equity stakes. Builds the kind of workplace she wished she'd had when she was struggling. One of her hires is Elena Rodriguez, her former college roommate who'd been bitter about Isabella's success. I don't have gallery experience, Elena says when Isabella offers her the position. You have an art history degree and you need a fresh start. So do I. We'll figure it out together. Elena cries. I was so angry at you. So jealous. And you're giving me this. Everyone deserves a second chance to build something real, Isabella says. I got mine. Now you get yours. The gallery's success does something unexpected. It shifts the power dynamic in Isabella's marriage. She's no longer dependent on Damien. No longer living in his penthouse on his terms. She has her own money. Her own identity. Her own empire, modest as it is. It changes everything. Isabella and Damien start couples counseling in month 2 after the shooting. Their therapist, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, doesn't let them hide behind politeness. She pushes, challenges, forces them to articulate the resentments they've been swallowing. Isabella, what do you need from Damien? Dr. Okonkwo asks during their 4th session. I need him to see me as competent, as capable of handling hard truths, as someone who doesn't need to be protected from reality. Damien, what do you hear in that? Damien is quiet for a long moment. I hear that my protection felt like control, that my love felt like suffocation. Is that accurate, Isabella? Yes, Isabella says. Exactly that. Dr. Okonkwo turns to Damien. Why do you think you needed to control the situation? Because, Damien's voice cracks. Because my first girlfriend died in a car accident when I was 23. Drunk driver. Sudden. Preventable. And I couldn't stop it. Couldn't save her. Ever since then, when I love someone, I become obsessed with controlling variables. Eliminating risks. Making sure nothing bad happens. Isabella stares at him. You never told me that. I never tell anyone. It feels like if I talk about it, I'm making excuses for being controlling. But the truth is, Rebecca's death broke something in me. Made me believe that love means constant vigilance. That if I'm not managing every threat, I'm failing to protect the people I care about. Tears stream down his face. Isabella reaches for his hand. I can't be your second chance to save someone, she says gently. I can't be the relationship where you get it right this time. That's too much pressure. I know. But I can be your partner. If you let me. If you trust that I'm strong enough to face danger with you instead of being hidden from it. Bella, I'd burn this penthouse to the ground if it meant supporting your dreams. Using it as a gallery for one night? That's easy. Damien squeezes her hand. I'm trying to learn that. I promise I'm trying. The healing isn't linear. Some days are good. Some days Isabella can barely look at Damien without remembering the betrayal. But there are moments. Month 3. Damien shows up at the gallery with coffee at 2 a.m. while Isabella is installing a new exhibition. He doesn't try to help, just sits on a crate and keeps her company. Talks about nothing. Makes her laugh. Reminds her why she fell in love with him. Month 4. Isabella has a panic attack in the middle of a gallery opening. Too many people. Too much noise. Her mind flashes back to the shooting. She can't breathe. Damien finds her in the back office, hyperventilating. He doesn't tell her to calm down or that she's safe. He just sits beside her, breathes with her, matches her rhythm until it slows, holds her hand without speaking. When she can finally breathe normally, he asks, "Better?" She nods. "Want me to clear the gallery?" "No. I need to go back out there. Face it. I'll be right behind you if you need me." Yes. And that makes all the difference. Month 5. They're having dinner at home, actually eating together, which has become rare with their competing schedules. When Damien says, "I've been thinking about stepping back from Sentinel Tech," Isabella looks up, surprised. "Why?" "Because I've spent 3 years building a company and losing my marriage. And I don't want to wake up at 50 having conquered the tech world but lost everyone I love." He pauses. "I want to be present. Really present. Not just physically here but mentally here." "What would you do instead?" "I don't know yet. Maybe philanthropy. Maybe invest in startups run by people who remind me of you. Scrappy, brilliant, underestimated. Maybe just figure out who I am when I'm not working 80-hour weeks." Isabella studies her husband. "You'd really give up Sentinel Tech? For a real marriage? For a partnership instead of parallel lives?" In a heartbeat. It's the first time Isabella truly believes they might make it. Month 6 brings unexpected healing with family. Isabella's parents visit the gallery. Her father walks better now, physical therapy has helped, and the stress of financial insecurity has eased since Damien quietly paid off their medical debt. Isabella didn't know about it until her mother mentioned it casually. "Your husband is too generous," her mother says in Mandarin. "We told him we could manage." "He wanted to help," Isabella replies. "And you raised me. That debt is partially mine." Her father studies the art on the walls. Stops in front of a painting by one of the formerly incarcerated artists. It depicts a man's hands, scarred, weathered, powerful, holding a single flower. "This is beautiful," he says, his speech nearly normal now. "Who made it?" "Marcus Thompson. He spent 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Exonerated 3 years ago. Taught himself to paint while incarcerated. This is his first professional sale." Her father is quiet. "Then, you're doing important work. Not just selling art. Giving people dignity." Isabella's eyes sting. "I learned that from you. You and Mom spent 30 years giving people their clothes back with dignity. Making them feel seen. I'm just doing the same thing with art." Her father hugs her. "We're proud of you. Not because you married money. Because you built something meaningful." It's the validation Isabella didn't know she needed. True to his word, Damien steps back from Sentinel Tech in month 7. Not completely, he retains a board seat and advisory role. But the day-to-day operations? Gone. The 80-hour weeks? Finished. The constant travel? Eliminated. He's home by 6 p.m. most nights. Actually home, not just physically present while mentally in a different time zone. The first week is awkward. He doesn't know what to do with leisure time. Paces the penthouse like a caged animal. Checks his phone obsessively. "You can work if you need to," Isabella tells him. "No. I'm learning to be still. It's just harder than I expected." By week 3, he's found a rhythm. He starts cooking, actually cooking, not ordering from Michelin-starred restaurants. Gets good at it. Makes Isabella breakfast when she has early gallery days. He reads. Fiction, which he hasn't touched since college. Gets absorbed in stories that have nothing to do with business or technology. He volunteers at a coding boot camp for underserved youth. Teaches kids from backgrounds like Isabella's that technology isn't just for people born into privilege. One evening, Isabella comes home to find him on the terrace, just sitting. Not working. Not on his phone. Just existing. "What are you doing?" she asks. "Watching the sunset." "When's the last time I did that?" Isabella sits beside him. They watch the sky turn orange and pink and purple. Don't speak. Don't need to. For the first time in 3 years, they're simply together. Month 8 brings the moment everything shifts. Isabella is curating her biggest exhibition yet, Resilience, a retrospective. 50 artists. 3 floors. A celebration of survival in all its forms. The opening is scheduled for a Friday night. Press coverage confirmed. Major collectors flying in from Europe and Asia. It's the exhibition that will define whether Resilience Gallery is a flash-in-the-pan sensation or a lasting institution. 2 days before the opening, the heating system fails. In February, in New York, the building management says repairs will take a week. Minimum. Isabella spirals. This exhibition represents 8 months of work. Thousands of dollars in marketing. Artists who've arranged their schedules around this date. She can't postpone. Collectors have non-refundable flights. Press schedules are locked. She comes home at midnight, defeated. Damien is still awake, reading in bed. The heating system failed, she says without preamble. The opening is in 2 days. I'm finished. Damien sets down his book. No, you're not. What do you need? I need a miracle. I need the building fixed in 48 hours. She laughs bitterly. I need money to throw at the problem. Which is exactly what I've been trying to prove I don't need. Then don't use money. Use creativity. What? Damien stands. Starts pacing. His mind working through the problem like it's a business challenge. You can't fix the heating system in 2 days. But you can work around it. What if the opening isn't about the building? What if it's about the art? I don't understand. Move it. The exhibition. Move it somewhere else. Somewhere unexpected. Somewhere that reinforces your message about resilience, adapting when circumstances change. Isabella's mind starts racing. Where? I'd need a space that could hold 3 floors of art. That's available in 2 days. That's the penthouse, Damien says. Our home. 14,000 square feet. Multiple floors. Available immediately. Isabella stares at him. You want to turn our home into a gallery? I want to support your vision. This exhibition is about resilience. About making beauty in impossible circumstances. What's more impossible than losing your venue 2 days before opening and rebuilding in 48 hours? That's insane. That's perfect. Isabella considers. It is insane. It's also brilliant. The story alone will generate press, she says slowly. Curator hosts gallery opening in her own home after venue disaster. It's headline gold. Exactly. But Damien, this is our private space. You'd really let strangers come through our home. He takes her hands. The next 48 hours are chaos. Isabella and her team move 50 pieces of art from the gallery to the penthouse. They transform living spaces into exhibition spaces. The formal dining room becomes a showcase for sculptures. The library hosts photography. The master bedroom, their bedroom, displays the most intimate pieces about survival and rebirth. It's vulnerable. Exposing. Their private life on display. But it works. Damien helps. Actually helps. Hangs art. Moves furniture. Doesn't try to manage or control. Just follows Isabella's vision. Elena, Sarah Kim, and surprisingly Victoria Lauron all show up to help. Victoria brings her connections, calls her former modeling contacts, generates social media buzz. Why are you helping me? Isabella asks Victoria. You barely know me. Because you paid me $50,000 a month to use my apartment when you thought your husband was cheating, Victoria says. And then you didn't judge me for taking it. You treated me like a person instead of a gold digger. That matters. By Friday evening, the penthouse has been transformed. It's not a gallery, it's something better. It's art in the context of life. Beauty in the spaces where people actually live. The opening is magical. 200 people cycle through the penthouse over 4 hours. Collectors. Artists. People who've never been to a gallery opening before but heard about the last-minute venue change and got curious. Isabella stands in her own bedroom, now an exhibition space, watching strangers view art about survival in the room where she's survived her own battles. A collector from Dubai buys 3 pieces for $275,000. A museum curator from London commits to a traveling exhibition. Vogue wants to do a feature on Isabella as a cultural disruptor. But the moment that matters most comes at 9 p.m. Marcus Thompson, the formerly incarcerated artist whose work her father admired, approaches Isabella. He's crying. I sold 6 pieces tonight, he says. That's more money than I made in 3 years before prison. That's a studio apartment. That's art supplies for a year. His voice breaks. That's proof that my life isn't over. That I can build something after what happened to me. Isabella hugs him. You built this. Your work. Your talent. Your refusal to let your past define your future. I just gave you a wall. You gave me more than that. You gave me dignity. The exhibition generates $1.2 million in sales over the next week. After gallery commission and artist payments, Isabella clears $180,000 in profit. It's not billionaire money. It's not even close. But it's hers. Earned through vision and work and the willingness to adapt when everything went wrong. The press coverage is overwhelming. The New York Times, Artforum, The Wall Street Journal. Even People magazine runs a feature, The Billionaire's Wife Who Built Her Own Empire. Isabella hates that framing. She's not defined by being Damien's wife. But she understands that's how the world sees her. For now. 3 weeks after the opening, Isabella makes a decision. She's moving out of the penthouse. Not divorcing Damien. Not leaving the marriage. But creating space. I need my own place, she tells him. Somewhere that's mine. Where I can breathe and think and be myself without our relationship being the defining feature of every room. Damien's face falls. But he nods. I understand. Do you? Because I'm not leaving you. I need to prove to myself that I can exist independently. That I'm not just Mrs. Blackwell in a beautiful prison. Where will you go? I'm buying a loft in Brooklyn. Near the gallery. Well, mine. How much do you need? I don't need anything. I have the money from the exhibition. Damien is quiet. Then, I'm proud of you. For building this. For knowing what you need. For being brave enough to ask for space even when it scares me. Are you scared? Terrified. But I trust you. And I trust that space might be what we need to rebuild properly. Isabella buys a 1,200 square foot loft in Williamsburg. It's a fraction of the penthouse size. No doorman. No Central Park view. Radiator that still clanks. It feels like home. She furnishes it herself. Kia mixed with vintage finds. Art from her gallery artists on the walls. A space that reflects who she is, not who she married. Damien visits twice a week. Sometimes they have dinner. Sometimes they just talk. Sometimes they sleep together, slowly rebuilding physical intimacy that was fractured by betrayal. It's not perfect, but it's honest. Do you regret marrying me? Damien asks one evening, lying in her bed in her loft, looking at her ceiling instead of his. Isabella considers. No. But I regret who I became in the marriage. The woman who shrank herself to fit into your world. Who stopped fighting because fighting felt ungrateful. Who let loneliness become her default state. I did that to you. We both did. I let it happen. I could have pushed back harder. Could have demanded more. Could have left. Why didn't you? Because I loved you. And because I didn't know who I'd be without the safety of your wealth. I was terrified of struggling again. She turns to look at him. The shooting changed that. When I thought I might die, I realized I'd rather die as myself than live safely as someone I didn't recognize. Damien starts his own therapy. Individual sessions, not couples. He works through the death of his college girlfriend. Through his need to control. Through the ways his wealth has insulated him from consequence and made him believe he could solve any problem with money. I've spent my adult life believing that success means protecting people, he tells Isabella one night. My employees. My family. But protection without permission is just control. I'm learning that. How does it feel? Uncomfortable. Like I'm failing by not managing every variable. But also, he pauses. Also freeing. Like maybe I can just be a person instead of someone's shield. He starts dating Isabella. Actually dating. Like they're new to each other. He picks her up at her loft. Takes her to small restaurants in Brooklyn. They go to independent films and comedy shows and a pottery class where they're both terrible. It's courtship. But different. Based on knowledge instead of discovery. On choice instead of momentum. Is this working? Isabella asks after their 5th date night. I don't know, Damien admits. But I like who I am when I'm with you like this. Not as your husband in the penthouse. Just as the guy who wants to know what you think about everything. I like that guy too. Enough to consider moving back in eventually? Eventually. Maybe. When we're both sure it's about partnership and not convenience. Fair enough. 9 months after Marcus Chen tried to kill her, Isabella receives a letter. It's from Marcus Chen's daughter, Olivia, 26 years old, living in California. She'd been estranged from her father for years. The letter is devastating. Dear Mrs. Blackwell, I'm sorry for what my father did. I'm sorry you almost died because of his desperation and greed. I'm sorry that I didn't know how bad things had gotten for him until it was too late. I'm also writing to thank you for buying the gallery, for renaming it Resilience, for turning the place where he tried to destroy you into something that helps people rebuild their lives. My father spent his whole life believing that art was transactional, that its value was monetary, that success meant sales and status. You've proven that art is transformational, that its value is human. I think that would have killed him more than the bullet did. The knowledge that you succeeded where he failed, not in making money, but in making meaning. Thank you for showing me that my father's choices don't define me. That I can mourn him while acknowledging what he did was unforgivable. That survival doesn't require forgetting. Sincerely, Olivia Chen. Isabella reads the letter 3 times. Then she writes back. She tells Olivia about her father's mentorship. About the good he did before desperation corrupted him. About how people are complicated, capable of both extraordinary generosity and terrible cruelty. She offers Olivia a position at the gallery. Your father's legacy doesn't have to be murder. It can be the work we do to honor what he loved about art before everything went wrong. Olivia accepts. Starts working at Resilience Gallery 2 months later. It's healing for both of them. Complicated, messy, necessary healing. 11 months after the shooting, Isabella and Damien have to make a choice. Are they rebuilding a marriage? Or are they just two people who love each other but function better apart? They meet with Dr. Okonkwo for a final session. A reckoning. What do you both want? The therapist asks. Damien speaks first. I want Isabella in my life. Forever. But I want her to be happy. If that means divorce, if that means friendship instead of marriage, I'll accept it. Her happiness matters more than my comfort. Dr. Okonkwo turns to Isabella. And you? Isabella takes a breath. I want to stay married. But not the marriage we had. I want a partnership where we're both whole people who choose each other daily. Not people who stay together because of vows made when we were different people. Can you build that? Dr. Okonkwo asks. Both of you? I think so, Isabella says. If we're honest. If we keep doing therapy. If we accept that some days will be hard and that's okay. Damien nods. I'm willing to do the work. Every day. For the rest of my life if that's what it takes. Isabella looks at her husband. This man who'd lied to her and loved her and almost lost her. Who'd transformed himself because the alternative was losing everything that mattered. Then let's try, she says. Let's build something new. 1 year after someone tried to kill her, Isabella Chen-Blackwell stands in Resilience Gallery during a quiet afternoon. The space is empty except for the art. Pieces by survivors. By people who'd lost everything and built again. By artists who understood that beauty emerges from struggle. She thinks about the girl she was, broke, hungry, desperate to prove that art mattered. She thinks about the woman she became, wealthy, lonely, trapped in a gilded cage. And she thinks about who she is now, scarred, strong, building something that matters on her own terms. Transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before fear made you small. Before wealth made you comfortable. Before survival became your only goal. Isabella has transformed. Not into someone perfect. Into someone real. Damien has transformed too. From a man who loved by controlling to a man learning to love by trusting. Their marriage has transformed. From something that looked perfect but felt hollow to something that looks messy but feels true. None of it is finished. Transformation never is. It's continuous. Daily. Choosing growth over comfort. Choosing truth over performance. Choosing to be vulnerable even when safety seems smarter. Before we move into the final act, I need to ask you something. Do you think people can truly change? Not surface-level change, not just better habits or different circumstances, but core transformation. The kind that rewrites who you are at a fundamental level. Because Isabella and Damien have both changed. But are they different people? Or are they just the same people making better choices? This matters. Because what happens next will test whether their transformation is real or just performance. Whether the work they've done can survive one final challenge. Whether change is permanent or whether we all eventually revert to our worst selves when tested. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe in genuine transformation? Or do you think our core nature is fixed, and we're just pretending to be different? Because the answer to that question will determine how you see the ending of this story. And trust me, the ending is going to challenge everything you think you know about love, wealth, and who we become after survival. 15 months after the shooting, Isabella receives an invitation that changes everything. The envelope arrives at Resilience Gallery on a Tuesday morning. Heavy cream cardstock. Embossed lettering. The kind of invitation that signals importance. The Metropolitan Museum of Art cordially invites you to the annual gala for contemporary art, honoring Isabella Chen-Blackwell, curator and cultural innovator. Isabella stares at it. The place her parents took her every first Sunday when admission was free. The place where she fell in love with art. The place that represented everything she couldn't afford to be. Now they're honoring her. This is huge, Elena says, reading over her shoulder. The Met Gala this is career-defining. It's terrifying, Isabella corrects. Because here's what the invitation doesn't say. The event is organized by the Contemporary Art Council. The board of that council includes Daniel Price, Damien's former business partner, Sarah Kim, the artist whose career Isabella launched, and Victoria Lauron, the neighbor who'd been complicit in the investigation. All the people who were suspects. All the people who know what happened. All of them in one room, witnessing Isabella's vindication. Are you going to go? Elena asks. I don't have a choice. Refusing would make me look bitter. Or scared. Are you scared? Isabella considers. No, not anymore. But I'm uncertain. About what this means. About whether I deserve it. You've built something extraordinary. You've earned this. Maybe. But earning something doesn't always feel like winning. Isabella has 3 weeks to prepare. She buys a dress, not borrowed, not gifted by a designer hoping for publicity. She buys it herself with money she earned. A floor-length emerald silk gown that cost $3,800. More than she would have spent before, less than Damien's world would expect. Perfect. She practices her acceptance speech. Writes it 12 times. Keeps it under 3 minutes. Focuses on the artist she's supported rather than her own journey. You should talk about yourself more, Damien says one evening while she's rehearsing in her loft. But this isn't about me. Bella, you almost died. You survived. You built a gallery that's changing lives. That's the story. That's trauma porn. I'm not exploiting my near-death experience for applause. Damien is quiet. Then, you're still afraid of taking credit. Of admitting that you've done something remarkable. Isabella sets down her notes. I'm afraid of becoming the story instead of the work being the story. I'm afraid of being the curator who was almost murdered, instead of the curator who champions survivors. You can be both. Can I? Because I feel like the world wants me to be a victim who overcame. But I don't want to be defined by what Marcus Chin tried to do to me. I want to be defined by what I built after. Damien crosses to her. Takes her hands. Then talk about that. Talk about building. Talk about resilience as a choice, not a circumstance. Talk about transformation. Isabella looks at her husband. She knows he's right. She rewrites the speech. The Met Gala is exactly as intimidating as Isabella imagined. She arrives with Damien. He wears a classic tuxedo, simple, elegant, letting her shine. She wears her emerald dress and the sapphire ring he gave her when he proposed. The one that reminded him of drowning in a good way. They walk up the museum steps. Photographers call her name. She's used to this now. A year of press coverage has made her face recognizable. But tonight feels different. Tonight, everyone knows why she's here. Inside the Great Hall, 500 people in formal wear circulate beneath soaring ceilings. Champagne flows. A string quartet plays. It's the kind of event Isabella used to dream about attending. Now she's being honored. The first person she sees is Sarah Kim, the artist whose career Isabella launched. Who'd warned her to be careful the night of the shooting. Who'd been on the suspect list until Marcus Chen was revealed. Sarah approaches, tentative. Isabella. You look beautiful. Thank you. So do you. Awkward silence. Then Sarah says, I need to apologize. For being on that list. For being suspected. I know that's not your fault, but I can't imagine what it felt like to wonder if I wanted you dead. Isabella studies Sarah's face. Sees genuine remorse. You didn't know you were being investigated. You have nothing to apologize for. Still, it must have been awful. Suspecting everyone around you. It was, Isabella admits. But it also taught me something. That love and suspicion can coexist. That you can care about someone and still acknowledge they have motive. That's just reality. Sarah nods. For what it's worth, I'm glad you survived. And I'm glad you're building something that matters. Thank you. Daniel Price finds Isabella near the bar. Damien's former business partner. The man who'd offered to send security to check on Isabella the night of the trap. Who'd been bitter about the Sentinel Tech buyout terms. Who'd had 40 million reasons to want Isabella dead so Damien's inheritance would shift. Isabella, Daniel says. Congratulations. This honor is well-deserved. Thank you, Daniel. He orders a scotch. Waits until the bartender moves away. Then, I heard I was on a suspect list. That you thought I might have hired someone to kill you. Isabella's pulse quickens. You were, along with 11 others. Was I high on the list? High enough. Daniel laughs. A hollow sound. I was angry at Damien. For years. For taking the majority of the Sentinel payout while I got scraps. But Isabella, I would never. He stops. Starts again. My wife left me because of my bitterness. Because I couldn't let go of feeling cheated. And when I heard what happened to you, I realized how poisonous that anger was. How it made me into someone capable of being suspected of murder. I've spent the last year working on myself, Daniel continues. Therapy. Meditation. Trying to be grateful for the 200 million I did get instead of angry about the billions I didn't. And I wanted you to know, I'm glad you survived. I'm glad you're thriving. And I'm sorry that my bitterness made me look like a monster. Isabella doesn't know what to say. This is the confrontation she'd imagined, but not hostile. Not vindictive. Just sad. Thank you for telling me, she says finally. And for the record, the investigation cleared you. You were never seriously suspected. It's a small lie. A kindness. Daniel's face relaxes with relief. Still, thank you for giving me the benefit of the doubt. He walks away. And Isabella realizes something. Revenge isn't necessary when people destroy themselves with their own bitterness. Victoria approaches as dinner is being announced. The French former model. The neighbor. The woman who'd let Damien and Marcus Webb use her apartment. Who'd been paid $50,000 a month for her complicity. Isabella, Victoria says, her accent still thick. You look stunning. As do you. Victoria wears a silver gown that probably costs more than Isabella's. But she looks tired. The kind of exhaustion that comes from financial stress. I wanted to thank you, Victoria says. For not exposing me. For not telling people I was paid to help with the investigation. My reputation would have been destroyed. You were in a desperate situation. You made a choice. I'm not here to judge. Still, you could have ruined me. You didn't. That's generous. Isabella studies Victoria. How are you doing? Financially? Victoria's composure cracks slightly. Marcel took everything in the divorce. I'm surviving. Barely. Modeling at my age is limited. And my reputation as an art consultant is damaged because people think I'm just a pretty face. Isabella makes a decision. Resilience Gallery needs an events coordinator. Someone with connections. Someone who understands both the art world and high society. Are you interested? Victoria's eyes widen. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you an opportunity. The salary is $60,000 a year. Not what you're used to. But it's honest work. And it's a chance to build something real instead of trading on your looks. Victoria's eyes fill with tears. Why would you do this? After everything. Because everyone deserves a chance to rebuild. That's the whole point of the gallery. Dinner ends. The ceremony begins. The museum director takes the stage. Talks about the history of the Contemporary Art Council. About the importance of supporting visionary curators. About this year's honoree. Isabella Chen-Blackwell has redefined what it means to curate, the director says. She doesn't just display art, she dignifies artists. She doesn't just sell work, she transforms lives. In just 15 months, Resilience Gallery has become a beacon for artists whose society has overlooked, underestimated, or written off entirely. Isabella sits at the head table. Damien beside her. Her parents at the table, her mother crying already. Caroline grinning. Elena beaming. The director continues. Isabella's journey to this moment has not been easy. Many of you know she survived an assassination attempt last year. That she was targeted by someone who saw her wealth as an opportunity rather than her humanity as sacred. The room goes silent. Every eye on Isabella. But rather than letting that violence define her, Isabella chose to build. She purchased the very gallery where the attack occurred. Renamed it Resilience. And created a space where survival isn't just acknowledged, it's celebrated. The director looks directly at Isabella. Tonight, we honor not just a curator, but a survivor who refused to let trauma make her small. Who chose transformation over bitterness. Who proved that the best revenge is building something beautiful. The room erupts in applause. Isabella walks to the stage on shaking legs. 500 people. The most influential figures in New York's art world. All watching her. She reaches the podium. Takes a breath. Begins. $17, she says. That's how much money I had in my checking account the night I met my husband. Not $17,000. $17. I was 29 years old, living in a studio apartment in Alphabet City, eating ramen, wondering if I'd made a terrible mistake choosing art over stability. 3 years later, I'm standing in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the place my immigrant parents brought me every first Sunday when admission was free, being honored for curating. The irony isn't lost on me. Soft laughter from the audience. But here's what I want you to understand. Wealth didn't make me a better curator. Survival did. Poverty taught me to see art not as decoration but as necessity. As the thing that makes unbearable circumstances bearable. As proof that beauty matters even when, especially when, everything else is falling apart. Isabella looks out at the crowd. Finds Marcus Thompson, the formerly incarcerated artist. Finds Olivia Chen, Marcus Chen's daughter, now working at her gallery. Finds the dozen other artists whose lives have changed because resilience gave them a platform. 15 months ago, someone tried to kill me. My gallery owner. My mentor. A man I trusted. He needed money to save his gallery, and my life was worth $4 million to him. The room is completely silent now. I could have let that violence define me. Could have closed myself off. Could have built higher walls and hired more security and lived in fear. But instead, I bought his gallery. I renamed it Resilience. And I dedicated it to artists who understand what survival costs. Who know that building something after loss is the hardest and most important work we can do. Isabella's voice strengthens. This award isn't mine. It belongs to every artist who's been told they're too broken, too poor, too marked by trauma to create beautiful things. It belongs to everyone who chose transformation over bitterness. Who refused to let their worst moments define their best work. She looks at Damien. At her parents. at the people who've supported her through transformation. Resilience isn't about bouncing back. It's about building forward. It's about acknowledging that you're changed by what you've survived, and choosing to make that change meaningful instead of destructive. So thank you for this honor, for seeing the work instead of just the story, for believing that art can dignify, transform, and heal, and for reminding me that sometimes the girl eating ramen in a crappy studio apartment is exactly who she needs to be to become the woman standing here tonight. Isabella steps back from the podium. The room explodes. Standing ovation. 500 people on their feet. Applause that echoes off the museum's soaring ceilings. Isabella doesn't cry. She stands tall, dignified, powerful in ways that have nothing to do with wealth. She's survived. She's built. She's won. Not through revenge. Through resilience. After the ceremony, people swarm Isabella. Collectors wanting to commission work. Museum curators pitching collaborations. Journalists requesting interviews. Philanthropists offering funding. She handles it with grace. Takes business cards. Makes promises to follow up. Plays the role she's spent 15 months perfecting. But what she really wants is to leave. To process. To be alone with the enormity of what just happened. Damien finds her on a balcony overlooking the museum's sculpture garden. The party continues inside, but out here it's quiet. "You were magnificent," he says. "I was terrified. You hid it well." Isabella leans against the railing. "Did you see their faces? Daniel, Victoria, Sarah, all the people who were suspects. They all looked ashamed." Damien finishes. Because they realized how their own bitterness and desperation made them look like murderers. "I didn't want that. I didn't want to make them feel small." "You didn't. Their choices made them feel small. You just forced them to confront those choices." Isabella turns to her husband. "Do you think we would have made it? If the shooting hadn't happened? If we just continued the way we were, you traveling, me lonely, both of us pretending everything was fine?" Damien is quiet for a long moment. "No. I think we would have divorced within 2 years. I think you would have left, and I would have been too proud to fight for you until it was too late. So violence saved our marriage." "No. Your refusal to accept violence as your defining moment saved our marriage. You could have left. Could have blamed me for putting you in danger. Could have taken half my assets and started over somewhere safe. But you chose to rebuild. With me. Despite everything." Isabella studies the sculpture garden below. "I almost left. So many times in the past year. Some days I still think about it. I know. But then I remember that leaving would be admitting that trust can't be rebuilt. That people can't change. That transformation is impossible. And I can't accept that. I've built my entire career on the belief that people can survive terrible things and become someone better. I have to believe that applies to marriages too." They stand in silence, watching the city beyond the museum. Isabella thinks about the girl she was. Broke, hungry, fighting for every opportunity. She thinks about the woman she became. Wealthy, isolated, trapped in a life that looked perfect but felt hollow. And she thinks about who she is now. Scarred, thrown, building something that matters on her own terms. "Do you feel like you've won?" Damien asks quietly. Isabella considers. "No. Because there's no winning when someone tried to kill you. There's just surviving and deciding what survival means." "What does it mean for you?" "It means I'm not afraid anymore. Not of poverty. Not of violence. Not of losing everything. Because I've already lost and rebuilt. I know I can do it again if I have to." "That's terrifying for me," Damien admits. "Knowing you don't need me. That you could walk away and be fine." "Good," Isabella says. "You should be afraid of that. It'll keep you from taking me for granted." "I'll never take you for granted again." "Don't promise what you can't guarantee. Promise to try. Promise to keep choosing me even when it's hard. Promise to keep showing up and doing the work and treating me like a partner instead of a possession." "I promise all of that." Isabella turns to him. Takes his hands. "Then we'll keep trying. Day by day. Month by month. Building something new on the foundation of what we destroyed." Damien pulls her close. She lets him. Because tonight, in this moment, after being honored and vindicated and witnessed, she doesn't need to be strong. She can just be held. They take separate cars home. Isabella to her Brooklyn loft, Damien to the penthouse. It's been 15 months, and they still haven't moved back in together. Still maintaining space. Still rebuilding slowly. But as Isabella's car crosses the Brooklyn Bridge, she gets a text from Damien. I'm proud of you. Not for the award. For choosing to build instead of burn. For being brave enough to transform. For being you. Isabella smiles. Texts back. Come over tomorrow night. I'll make dinner. We'll talk about the future. Our future? Maybe. If we can figure out what that looks like. I'd like that. Isabella arrives at her loft at midnight. Changes out of her emerald dress. Washes off her makeup. Stands in her small bathroom that's a fraction of the penthouse's size. She doesn't feel wealthy. Doesn't feel victorious. Just feels settled. Like she's finally becoming the person she was supposed to be all along. Someone who understands that survival isn't about never being wounded. It's about refusing to let wounds define you. Someone who knows that wealth can't protect you from pain, but resilience can carry you through it. Someone who's learned that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. The confrontation is over. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just quiet acknowledgement that Isabella survived what was meant to destroy her. Daniel Price saw his bitterness reflected back. Victoria Lauren recognized her desperation. Sarah Kim understood how quickly suspicion can poison relationships. All the suspects confronted by the simple fact of Isabella's continued existence. And Isabella? She realized something profound. She didn't need them to suffer. Didn't need validation or revenge. She just needed to keep building. Because that's what resilience is. Not bouncing back to who you were, but building forward into who you're becoming. So here's my question for you. Do you feel satisfied with how this played out? Some of you might have wanted Isabella to be harsher. To publicly call out the people who suspected her. To make them grovel. To exact some kind of revenge beyond just succeeding. Others might appreciate that she chose grace. That she offered Victoria a job. That she told Daniel a kind lie. That she took the high road even when the low road would have felt satisfying. There's no wrong answer here. Revenge stories and resilience stories both have power, but they serve different purposes. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you have handled the confrontation differently? Or do you think Isabella got it exactly right? Because we're about to close this story. And how you feel about Isabella's choices will determine how you feel about the ending. 2 years after the midnight knock that changed everything, here's where everyone ended up. Marcus Chin is dead. That part hasn't changed. But what happened to his legacy, that evolved in unexpected ways? His estate was bankrupt when he died. His personal gallery closed. His reputation as a mentor and tastemaker was destroyed by the revelation that he'd tried to murder his protege for money. The art world did what it does best. It erased him. Retrospectives were cancelled. Museum acquisitions were quietly returned. His name became synonymous with betrayal and greed. But here's the complicated part. Some of his early work, the artists he championed before desperation corrupted him, that work endures. Those artists still credit him in interviews, acknowledging that he discovered them even if he later destroyed himself. Olivia Chen, his daughter, wrote a memoir about growing up with a father who valued art more than family. The Gallery of Ghosts became a bestseller. She donated all proceeds to organizations supporting artists from marginalized backgrounds. In interviews, Olivia is careful. She mourns her father while acknowledging his crimes. She talks about how ambition without ethics becomes poison. How the art world's emphasis on money over meaning created the desperation that killed him. My father tried to murder someone for gallery funding, she told The New Yorker. That's unforgivable. But it's also a symptom of an industry that measures worth in dollars instead of impact. We need to do better. The memoir sparked conversations. Industry-wide reckonings about how galleries are funded. About the pressure to produce returns. About what gets sacrificed when art becomes purely transactional. Marcus Chen's death became a cautionary tale. Not the legacy he wanted, but perhaps the one the art world needed. Daniel Price spent the year after the Met Gala in intensive therapy. He sold his apartment in Manhattan, the one that reminded him daily of what he'd lost when Sentinel Tech was acquired. Moved to Vermont. Bought a small farm. Started teaching computer science at a community college. His salary went from 7 figures to $60,000 a year. Best decision I ever made, he told a former colleague who visited. I spent a decade being angry that Damien got billions while I got millions. Do you know how insane that sounds? I was a multimillionaire throwing a tantrum about not being a billionaire. Daniel started a nonprofit, Code Access. It teaches programming to people who've been incarcerated. Gives them marketable skills. Connects them with employers willing to hire based on ability instead of background. His first student was Marcus Thompson, the formerly incarcerated artist from Isabella's gallery. Marcus wanted to learn to build websites to sell his art independently. Working with Marcus changed my perspective, Daniel said. Here's a guy who spent 12 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. No bitterness. No rage. Just gratitude for a second chance. And I was sitting in a Manhattan penthouse angry about my second 100 million. I was pathetic. Daniel reached out to Isabella 6 months after the Met Gala. Asked if he could volunteer at Resilience Gallery. Help artists build websites. Teach basic financial literacy. Isabella said yes. Because second chances aren't just for artists. They're for anyone willing to do the work. Victoria Laurent took the events coordinator position at Resilience Gallery. The first 3 months were humbling. She went from Park Avenue penthouses to Brooklyn warehouses. From champagne at gallery openings to cheap wine at artist studios. From being pursued for her beauty to being valued for her competence. It was the hardest and best thing she'd ever done. I spent 20 years trading on my looks, Victoria told Elena during a planning meeting. This is the first time I've been hired for my brain. It's terrifying. But Victoria was good at the work. Her connections in high society translated to donor cultivation. Her eye for aesthetics elevated gallery events. Her experience as a model taught her how to make people feel seen and valued. Within a year, she'd increased gallery fundraising by 40%. Attracted collectors who'd never considered buying work by emerging artists. Built relationships with corporations looking to diversify their art acquisitions. She also started dating again. Not models or finance guys or the kind of men who valued her as decoration. She dated a public defender, someone who made $48,000 a year and spent his days fighting for people who couldn't afford lawyers. He's not wealthy, Victoria said when Elena asked about him. But he's wealthy in the ways that matter. He's ethical. He sees me as a person. I didn't know how rare that was until I stopped dating men who saw me as property. Victoria's apartment in the building where everything happened? She moved out. Too many memories. Too much trauma. She got a small place in Brooklyn. 1,100 square feet. No doorman. Radiator that clanked. It felt like home. Sarah Kim became one of the most sought-after contemporary artists in America. The painting Damien bought on his first date with Isabella, the one that looked like drowning in a good way, sold at auction for $340,000 2 years later. A museum in Los Angeles acquired it for their permanent collection. Sarah's exhibitions sold out globally. Tokyo, London, Berlin. Her work explored themes of displacement and belonging as a Korean-American artist navigating predominantly white art spaces. But here's what mattered most to Sarah. She never forgot where she started. She created a foundation, the First Break Fund, that gave $10,000 grants to emerging artists who showed promise but lacked connections. No portfolio review by established curators. No industry gatekeepers. Just artists nominating other artists. Isabella gave me my first break by selecting my work for that charity auction, Sarah told Artforum. I never would have been seen by Damien Blackwell otherwise. I never would have sold that first piece. My entire career exists because one curator believed in me. This foundation is about multiplying that. Sarah visited Resilience Gallery quarterly. Taught workshops for artists about pricing their work, negotiating with galleries, understanding contracts. The technical business side that art schools don't teach. She and Isabella became genuine friends. Not curator and artist. Not suspect and survivor. Just two women who understood that success requires both talent and opportunity. "I'm sorry I was on that suspect list," Sarah said once over coffee. "You apologized already. Multiple times." "I know. But I keep thinking about how isolating it must have been. Wondering if everyone around you wanted you dead." Isabella was quiet. Then, it was. But it also clarified who mattered. Who stayed. Who fought for me even when I was too paranoid to accept help. "You stayed, Sarah. That counts." Resilience Gallery expanded. Not physically, Isabella kept the original space. But conceptually. She launched Resilience Press, publishing catalogs and art books by and about artists from marginalized backgrounds. Not into someone without wounds. Into someone who understood that wounds don't have to be weaknesses. They can be proof of survival. Evidence of strength. Foundation for building something beautiful. Isabella's phone buzzes. Text from Damien, "Dinner tonight? Your place or mine?" She smiles. Text back, "Come at 7. I love you. I love you too. Still working on trusting you completely. But I love you. That's fair. I'll keep earning it." Isabella sets down her phone. Looks around her gallery. Her space. Her achievement. Her proof that survival isn't just about staying alive. It's about choosing what kind of life to build after almost dying. She survived. She built. She won. Not through revenge. Not through bitterness. Through transformation. And that, more than any amount of wealth or recognition or vindication, is what makes her victory complete. So here's where we end up. Marcus Chen tried to kill Isabella for $4 million. He died trying. His gallery closed. His reputation was destroyed. His legacy is a warning about what happens when desperation corrupts. Isabella survived. Bought his gallery. Renamed it. Built something that honors what he should have valued. Art as transformation instead of transaction. The people who were suspected, Daniel, Victoria, Sarah, even Isabella's own parents, they all moved forward. Some thrived. Some found peace. All of them were changed by being forced to confront their own capacity for being suspected of murder. And Isabella? She learned that wealth can't protect you from violence. But resilience can carry you through it. Looking at where everyone ended up, here's what I want to know. Do you believe in karma? Do you think Marcus Chen's death and destroyed legacy is cosmic justice? Do you think Daniel's move to Vermont and Victoria's new life are redemption or just natural consequences of their choices? Or do you think karma is too simple? That people don't get what they deserve, they get what they create through their decisions? Because Isabella didn't succeed because the universe owed her victory. She succeeded because she chose to build instead of burn. Chose transformation over revenge. Chose resilience over bitterness. Maybe that's all karma really is. Not cosmic justice. Just the natural outcome of choosing growth when destruction would be easier. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because how you answer this question says a lot about how you see the world. And how you navigate your own struggles. Is it karma? Or is it just choice and consequence? I genuinely want to know what you think. So what does Isabella's story really teach us? Here's the thing about this story. It's not really about billionaires or assassinations or art galleries. It's about what happens when you refuse to let circumstances define you. Isabella Chen went from $17 in her checking account to nearly being murdered for being worth millions. She survived poverty. She survived wealth. She survived an assassination attempt. But here's what actually saved her. She survived herself. The most dangerous moment in Isabella's journey wasn't when Marcus Chen held a gun. It was the 3 years before that. When she was living in luxury but dying inside. When she had everything except herself. Wealth almost destroyed her in ways poverty never could. Because poverty made her fight. Wealth made her complacent. Made her forget that she was strong not because of what she married, but because of who she'd always been. The shooting was terrible. Traumatic. Nearly fatal. But it also woke her up. If you asked Isabella what she learned from almost dying, here's what she'd tell you. Success isn't about accumulating wealth. It's about building something that survives you. Something that matters beyond your bank account or your name on a building. She'd tell you that resilience isn't bouncing back to who you were. It's building forward into who you need to become. She'd tell you that love without trust is just fear wearing a pretty mask. That partnership requires vulnerability. That you can't protect someone by lying to them, you can only isolate them. She'd tell you that being suspected of having enemies who want you dead clarifies everything. Shows you who stays, who fights for you, who sees you as human instead of valuable. And she'd tell you this: the best revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. It's building something so beautiful that the people who tried to break you have to witness your success every day. Not to hurt them, but to prove to yourself that they couldn't. Real success isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in impact. Marcus Chen had money, status, a prestigious gallery. But when he died, his legacy was betrayal. His name became synonymous with greed and desperation. Isabella had less money. Her gallery generates a fraction of what Chen's did at its peak. But her legacy is transformation. Artists whose lives changed. Communities that were seen. Art that dignified instead of decorated. Success is also about who you become in pursuit of your goals. Damien Blackwell built a fortune. But he almost lost his marriage because he confused control with love. His transformation wasn't about making more money, it was about learning to be present. To trust. To partner instead of protect. Daniel Price had hundreds of millions. But bitterness made him miserable. His transformation wasn't about gaining wealth. It was about releasing resentment and finding purpose beyond profit. The pattern is clear. External success means nothing if your internal world is hollow. You can have billions and be broken. You can have very little and be whole. What matters is who you are when no one's watching. What you build that outlasts you. How you treat people when treating them well costs you something. Isabella's story proves something profound. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about transforming pain into purpose. She could have let the shooting make her bitter. Could have hidden behind security and wealth and never risked being vulnerable again. Could have divorced Damien and walked away from everyone who'd hurt her. Instead, she bought the gallery where she was almost killed. Hired people who'd been complicit in investigating her. Offered second chances to those who didn't necessarily deserve them. That's not a weakness. That's the strength of a kind most people never develop. Because here's what resilience actually looks like. It's standing in the place where someone tried to destroy you and building something beautiful there. It's looking at the person who lied to you and choosing to rebuild trust anyway. It's acknowledging your wounds without letting them become your identity. Resilience isn't pretty. It's not inspirational quotes and meditation apps. It's doing the hard work of transformation even when destruction would be easier. Even when giving up would be justified. Isabella did that work. Daily. For 3 years. Still doing it. That's what made her victory real. 3 years later, Isabella rarely thinks about Marcus Chen. Not because she's forgotten, but because he doesn't define her story anymore. When she does think about him, it's with something close to pity. Here was a man who built something meaningful, a gallery that launched careers, exhibitions that moved people, and he destroyed it all because he couldn't separate art's value from its price. He saw Isabella's life as worth $4 million. A transaction. A solution to his financial problems. He never understood that some things can't be measured in currency. That dignity matters. That killing someone for money doesn't just destroy them, it destroys you. Isabella doesn't hate him. Doesn't celebrate his death. Just feels sad that he chose desperation over integrity. That he let circumstances corrupt him so completely that murder seemed reasonable. He was a good curator before he was a killer, Isabella told Olivia once. That's the tragedy. He had talent. Vision. He just couldn't survive his own failure. And that weakness killed him more than any bullet did. There's wisdom in that. In understanding that your enemies are often just people who couldn't survive their own pain. Who chose destruction because transformation seemed impossible. You don't have to forgive them. But you can stop letting them occupy space in your head. If you take nothing else from Isabella's story, take this. Your worth isn't determined by your bank account. Isabella was the same person with $17 as she was with millions. Circumstances changed. She didn't, until she forgot who she was. Then she had to fight to remember. Survival isn't about avoiding struggle. Isabella's poverty prepared her for everything that came after. The hunger. The resilience. The refusal to quit. Those weren't liabilities, they were superpowers. The people who try to destroy you are often destroying themselves. Marcus Chen didn't die because Isabella fought back. He died because desperation made him reckless. His choices killed him. Isabella just survived them. Love requires trust more than protection. Damien almost lost Isabella by trying to save her. His lies nearly destroyed what his love tried to preserve. Partnership means being vulnerable together, not one person shielding the other from reality. Revenge is empty. Transformation is powerful. Isabella could have dedicated her life to punishing everyone who suspected her. Instead, she built something that made their suspicions irrelevant. She won by becoming someone whose success was undeniable. Your response to crisis defines you more than the crisis itself. Bad things happen to everyone. Rich people. Poor people. Good people. Bad people. What separates those who thrive from those who break isn't avoiding hardship. It's choosing growth when hardship arrives. Here's the final truth about Isabella Chen-Blackwell's story. She didn't win because she married a billionaire. She won because she remembered who she was before she married him. The girl eating ramen in a crappy studio apartment, working 3 jobs, believing that art mattered even when no one else did. That girl is who saved her. Not the wealth. Not the penthouse. Not the security team. The part of herself she'd almost lost in luxury, that's what she fought to reclaim. And that's available to all of us. Not the billions. Not the Met Gala. Not the international recognition. But the choice to remember who we are when circumstances try to make us forget. The refusal to let comfort make us complacent or hardship make us bitter. The commitment to building something meaningful instead of just surviving. Isabella's story is extraordinary. But the lesson is universal. You are not your circumstances. You're who you choose to be despite them. That $17 bank account girl who believed beauty mattered? She's still there. Stronger now. Scarred. Wiser. But fundamentally the same. And that's the victory that matters most. Not defeating your enemies. Not accumulating wealth. Not achieving recognition. Just remaining yourself when everything tries to change you. 3 years after a midnight knock that should have ended her story, Isabella Chen-Blackwell is still writing it. Still building. Still transforming. Still proving that resilience isn't about avoiding wounds. It's about refusing to let wounds define you. Her gallery will continue. Her artists will thrive. Her legacy will outlast her bank account. And somewhere, the girl with $17 and a dream is smiling. Because she survived everything, including success. That's the lesson. That's the legacy. Not that wealth protects you. Not that survival is guaranteed. Not that good people always win. But that transformation is always possible. That who you are matters more than what you have. That building something beautiful is the best response to people who tried to destroy you. Isabella Chen-Blackwell almost died for being valuable. Instead, she lived to prove she was invaluable. And that difference, between having value and being valuable, is everything. We've just spent 3 hours together following Isabella Chen-Blackwell's journey from poverty to wealth to near death to transformation. Let me remind you why this story matters. Isabella started with $17 and a dream that art mattered. She married a billionaire and thought she'd found safety. Instead, she found isolation. Her husband lied to protect her from an assassination plot. Her mentor tried to kill her for $4 million. Her marriage nearly collapsed under the weight of betrayal and control. She was shot. Almost died. Survived. And then she did something extraordinary. She bought the gallery where she was almost murdered. Renamed it Resilience. Built an empire that dignified artists society had written off. But here's what really happened in this story. Isabella remembered who she was. The girl eating ramen who believed beauty mattered. The woman who'd survived poverty and knew that struggle builds strength. The curator who understood that art transforms lives because it had transformed hers. That's who saved her. Not her husband's billions. Not security teams or investigations. Just the refusal to let circumstances, good or bad, erase her core identity. She transformed. Damien transformed. Their marriage transformed. And everyone who tried to break them learned that resilience isn't about avoiding wounds. It's about refusing to let wounds define you. This story matters because it's not really about billionaires or assassination attempts or art galleries in New York. It's about what all of us face. The choice between letting circumstances define us or defining ourselves despite circumstances. Isabella's poverty didn't make her weak. Her wealth didn't make her strong. Her near-death didn't make her a victim. What made her powerful was the daily choice to build instead of burn. To transform instead of retreat. To love despite betrayal. To trust despite lies. To keep showing up and doing the work even when quitting would be justified. That's available to all of us. Not the billions. Not the Met Gala honors. Not the international recognition. But the choice to remember who we are when life tries to make us forget. The refusal to let hardship make us bitter or comfort make us complacent. The commitment to building something meaningful instead of just surviving. You don't need wealth to be resilient. You need the willingness to transform pain into purpose. To see setbacks as setups for comebacks. To understand that your worst moments don't define you, your response to them does. So here's what I want you to take from Isabella's story. Your circumstances don't determine your worth. You're valuable because you exist. Because you have something to contribute. Because your perspective matters. Not because of your bank account or your title or what other people think of you. The people who try to destroy you are often destroying themselves. Their cruelty says nothing about you and everything about their inability to handle their own pain. Them occupies space in your mind. Transformation is always possible. No matter how broken you feel, how stuck you are, how impossible change seems. Isabella almost died and still rebuilt. Damien was a controlling liar and learned to trust. If they can transform, so can you. The best revenge is building a life so beautiful that your critics become irrelevant. Not to spite them, but to prove to yourself that their opinion never mattered. That you were always capable of more than they could see. Whatever you're going through right now, financial struggle, relationship pain, career setbacks, personal crisis, remember, you are not your circumstances. You're who you choose to become despite them. Isabella proved that. Now it's your turn. If this 3-hour story moved you, inspired you, or taught you something valuable about resilience and success, please leave a like. It genuinely helps more people find these stories. And share your biggest takeaway in the comments. What moment resonated most? What lesson hit home? What are you going to do differently because of Isabella's journey? I read every single comment. Your insights make this community special. They remind me why I spend 40 hours researching, 20 hours writing, and 15 hours producing these stories. Also, if you made it all the way to the end of this 3-hour deep dive, you're exactly the kind of viewer I'm creating for. Someone who values depth over quick entertainment. Who wants real stories with real lessons. Who's willing to invest time in transformation. Thank you for being here. Seriously. Next time, I'll be telling you about Marcus Reynolds, a janitor who discovered a $43 million accounting fraud at the Fortune 500 company where he worked. When he reported it, they tried to destroy him. When he fought back, he didn't just win. He brought down an entire corrupt executive team and walked away with a settlement that changed his life forever. His story of standing up to power when you have nothing to lose will absolutely blow your mind. You won't want to miss it. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. You are not defined by what others think of you. You are not defined by your bank account, your job title, your relationship status, or your past mistakes. You are defined by how you respond when life tests you. By what you build when circumstances try to break you. By who you become when transformation feels impossible. Isabella Chen-Blackwell proved that the best response to cruelty isn't revenge. It's building a life so beautiful that your critics become irrelevant. Not to prove them wrong. To prove to yourself that you were always capable of more than they could imagine. She went from $17 to nearly being murdered to building an empire that transforms lives. Not because she was special, because she refused to let circumstances, good or bad, erase who she fundamentally was. That same strength exists in you. That same resilience. That same capacity for transformation. You just have to choose it. Daily. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. So whatever you're facing right now, remember, circumstances are temporary. Character is permanent. The struggle you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. Stay strong. Stay focused. And never let anyone convince you that you're nothing. You're not nothing. You're everything you choose to become. Until next time, keep building. Keep transforming. Keep proving that resilience isn't about avoiding wounds. It's about refusing to let wounds define you. I'll see you in the next story.